That's it, Cole. I've seen enough from Bryce Young. Go ahead and bench him. Go ahead and bench him for the entire 2025 season. What we saw in game number 1 against the, as of 2024, extremely mediocre Jacksonville Jaguars, it tells me Bryce Young doesn't know how to play quarterback in this league. Is that too far? Oh. Is that too far after 1 week, 3 interceptions, a fumble, and their only offensive score coming in garbage time against a garbage football team? I don't know how good Jacksonville's going to be this year, but last year they were a garbage team and they got a brand new head coach. They were so bad, they had to change coaches. And somehow Liam Cohen comes in and has this team looking good right out of the gate, absolutely torching the Carolina Panthers that have a second-year head coach, have continuity at both coordinator positions, continuity at the quarterback position, and somehow they get 1 garbage time touchdown at the end of the game when it wasn't even up for debate.
Yeah, it's funny. This morning, Diesel, I wanted to go back and watch the highlights again. I typed in Carolina Panthers versus Jacksonville Jaguar highlights on YouTube, and absolutely nothing came up.
404, page not found.
Absolutely nothing came up. It was, I'll tell you this, I watched bits and pieces of the game. It was uninspiring. Only if it were Overreaction Monday, right, for you to have something to overreact about. Maybe they're getting the bad out of the way. But look, here's what we do know. 2 things can be true, Diesel. I say that all the time. Number 1, Bryce Young was not good on Sunday. Number 2, it's 1 game. Now, if this somehow, some way, we hope not, translates into more than 1 game, then yeah, all of a sudden, maybe it's time to not only hit the panic button, but think, man, what's really going on here? Was Adam Thielen being traded away this big of a blow for Bryce Young? And that's where my mind went when I saw what happened yesterday.
What rhymes with Mateer, by the way? How can you tank for John Mateer? Because that dude looks good. That dude looks good for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Carolina Panthers, I know that given the performance we just saw, probably not going to be a playoff caliber team. So you're going to be right there in that hunt. I don't know if John Mateer is going to come out. He is a junior. He could come out if he wanted to. I mean, how do you tank to get that guy? Because Bryce Young is not progressing. Yeah, he had like 4 or 5 good games at the end of the season last year against good opponents. And I thought, hey, maybe this guy is turning the corner. And look, I'm not so obtuse as to say that he didn't have some bright moments. He didn't have some good throws, but he had some head-scratching decisions. He had some awful throws. That first interception he threw into what was effectively zone triple coverage. What are you doing, Bryce? What are you doing? Tuck the ball, run it, slide, throw it away, hit the mascot, throw it to the cute girl in the 3rd row. I don't care. Just don't throw it into triple coverage, Bryce.
He had by the way, a QBR yesterday of 20.1, and we'll get to the phone lines.
Not even old enough to drink.
We'll get to the phone lines in just a second. But I'll tell you this, watching Bryce Young yesterday, Diesel, I do see deficiencies in his game. All kidding aside, am I going to already have the tank conversation? Not yet. It is 1 game. But I'll tell you this, when you watch him yesterday and you watch him at the end of the season, yes, it looks like 2 different guys, but he doesn't look comfortable. Yesterday, he didn't look comfortable. Obviously, the run game wasn't great. Offensive line, still a lot of work to do. And when the run game, we talked about this with Clemson, and offensive line aren't good, obviously it directly reflects on the quarterback position. I just don't know where we are truly on Bryce Young's development, right? That's where we go. Because if you look at what Bryce Young's done thus far in his NFL career, Diesel, he's had bright spots. He's had really bright spots, but he's also had some low spots. And yesterday you talked about the 1 interception, a terrible QBR. I just don't know where we are on his development. And yes, as an NFL player, as a quarterback in the NFL, you're going to have bad games. But the bad thing is, Diesel, for Panther fans, Bryce Young had his bad game the first game of the year, and now we don't know if that was just a blip on the radar or if this is what's to come of Bryce Young in 2025. Hopefully not. Hopefully not, right?
Dewey is already on one, apparently. People are telling him to shut up on the stream. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube is where you can jump in and watch the show live. You can also interact with T-Swizzle, with Dewey, with Dan B, and the 33 other Tolos that are already watching the stream. Jump in there, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever platform you're on. Make sure you've hit that like or subscribe button so that you can be a part of the show every single day. Let's go to the phone lines to somebody who I know shares my sentiment, unless he wants to try to talk me off the ledge, but we'll see how this goes. Rick in Greer, Rick, you tell me right. You've been a Panthers PSL owner since year number 1. Is that not correct?
That's correct. And let me tell you what, I'm just about ready to give up on it. All winter long, they blew smoke up my fanny in the summertime. They blew smoke up my fanny about how decent they were going to be. They're the worst team in football. They will not win a game.
Oh, I don't know about that.
If you have to blow smoke about how decent you're going to be, that's a tough spot.
Rick, I don't know about worst team. Did you watch the Colts yesterday beat the
The Colts look like the Kansas City Chiefs compared to the Panthers, okay?
I know I'm saying, did you see what the beat down that the Colts put on? I wouldn't go as far to say that the Panthers looked like the absolute worst team yesterday.
They're the worst team in football. And the Braves, Lord have mercy, I can't win for losing. I pull for Clemson, which looked like crap.
Yeah.
I pull for the Braves, which couldn't beat their way out of a wet paper bag. And I pull for the Panthers. I'm gonna go home, shoot my TV.
It's a good
kick
plan.
My dog. No, I'm not gonna kick the dog.
God.
And I'm gonna go home and cry because I don't have anybody to pull for. Who should I pull for?
You be a Falcons fan because Michael Penix looked real good in that game.
I can't. The Panthers make me sick.
Do you think they're worse than the Dolphins yesterday, Rick? Do you think they're worse than Miami?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Oh, come on. Cole.
Miami looked horrible against the Colts.
I watched the Panther games. If the midget had to hand the ball to a person in the stands, he couldn't hand it to him in the stands. But he is awful. Get rid of him now, okay?
Think about it this way.
When this guy comes on, and you're going to have him on from the Panthers, please don't let him blow smoke up your fanny, because the Panthers are awful. Ask him, what can we do to get rid of some of these players?
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. Cole, you were comparing it to the Colts 33-8 final against the Dolphins. Think about it this way. This Carolina Panthers game should have been 34-3. Bryce threw a pick 6 that got called back towards the end of the game. They scored a play or two later after, getting the ball returned to them. So it should have been a 34-3 game. And you'd be comparing a 34-3 to 33-8.
Yeah. Look, I'll say this. Here's what again, going back to the Bryce Young thing, like I just don't understand the inconsistency, because you watch that game as you did, and a lot of our Tolos who are Panther fans out there did. You watch the game and you see Bryce Young make plays, right? You see Bryce Young extend drives, like that 1 3rd down. I think it was like 3rd and 11, right? And it was late second quarter. He makes this great run, gets the first down, does the whole first down mark. Like, he looks really good. And then just a few plays later, it's 3rd down and 8. Diesel, just a few plays after, was 3rd and 11. And a safety just comes absolutely free off the right side, blows them up. You remember the ball just kind of went right up in the air, incomplete. They thought it was a fumble. While he was bad yesterday, again, I'm not putting it all on him. The offensive line was bad. The run game was bad. But let's just be honest. The Panthers as a team were bad yesterday. They were bad.
Yeah. Scored on their opening drive, 14 plays, 41 yards, took 7:39 off the clock. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, they didn't put it in the end zone, but it was their first offensive possession of the season. I understand it takes a little time for some teams to get going. After that, Cole, you know what happened? Interception, punt, fumble, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs, garbage time touchdowns, interception.
Yeah, bad offense.
It doesn't get any worse than that. It doesn't get any worse than that. What we saw from Bryce Young from this team. Now, shout out to Tet McMillan, had a decent first game, 5 catches for 68 yards. Shout out to Trevor Lawrence for maybe staving off the bust talk for another week. I mean, think about it. This was a guy that we were talking about as a bust, that we've been talking about as a bust now for a year, year and a half, 2 years. Carolina Panthers made him look like the second coming of Joe Namath. They made him look great.
You know, what's interesting is we talked about it last week. It was a big game for both teams, both quarterbacks, because as much as Bryce Young needed it, Trevor Lawrence also needed it equally as bad, right? Because Trevor Lawrence, 178 yards, I believe, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Look, the Panthers defense wasn't good at times. They gave up that huge run, late second quarter when the Jackson.
The big ETN one?
Yeah, Jackson had it like the, 7 or 8 yard line, a huge run. Bryce Young, the next drive, they're down 17-3. The Panthers come out diesel. And again, here's the frustrating part if you're a Panther fan. They come out the next drive, and Bryce Young makes a couple of really good plays. And then you see, like, later on, you had the rain delay, the weather delay, whatever. You see Bryce Young also make bad plays. 2nd and 8 yesterday. Bryce Young with a minute and a half maybe to go in the game, Diesel. 2nd and 8 and a half, minute 18 to go maybe in the second quarter, right? It was right before halftime. It was like 2nd and 8. The Panthers had the football moving from left to right. Bryce Young puts it right on the money, almost like a little seam route, right down the middle. Right on the money. Steps up in the pocket, has a clean pocket, makes a beautiful throw, and then you're like, oh, wow, Bryce Young's down 17-3, makes this beautiful completion. Why can't you see consistency? That's the big part. That's the frustrating part with Bryce Young. There's just not much consistency right now.
Yeah, he's got it in him to make decent throws, decent runs at times. But you're right. There's no consistency in doing it down in and down out, week in and week out, year in and year out. He's a third-year starter, by the way. Third-year starter. So here's what I think should happen, Cole. And I blame Dave Canales. I blame Dave Tepper. I blame all you Tolos who say, oh, you can't play the starters in the preseason game. There's no such thing as starters on this team anymore.
Oh,
from now on, that should be a foreign concept. Depth chart position 1 is a foreign concept to Dave Canales in the preseason. Maybe these guys who suck should get more than about 6 reps in the preseason games before they go out there and play for realsy. Make them go out and play. Make them go out and earn their starting position. Every week is a tryout. If you screw up, you go to the bench. I don't care if you're making $30 million a year. Get your ass out of here if you can't complete a pass. Get out of here if you can't hold on to the ball. There should be no such thing as position 1 of the depth chart for the Carolina Panthers. And I'm sorry. I know you don't want to get your starters hurt who make all this money, but they're terrible. Who cares? Who gives a rip if they get hurt in the preseason? They suck. Maybe the guys behind them are better.
Yeah, look, the reality is it's all about talent evaluation. And we've talked about this many, many times. In the NFL, the best organizations are the organizations who hit more times than they miss, Diesel, when it comes to talent evaluation. And right now, when you talk about talent evaluation, we know Dan Morgan's done a good job, but I think the Panthers still have boxes to check. And not only with Bryce Young, but play calling. Frustrating part. Frustrating if you're a Panther fan. Second half yesterday, right? Panthers get the ball to come out. They're down 23. 20-3 is the score. They're around midfield. It's 2nd and 1. They run the ball, first down, right? Okay. You're only down 17. You go score. You make it 20-10. It's a ball game. Diesel, 2 plays later, it's 3rd and 1. They just had 2nd and 1 where they ran and picked up a first down. 3rd and 1, Bryce Young takes the snap out of the gun, empty backfield. The pocket just absolutely collapses. He throws it up down the right sideline on 3rd and 1 for like 35 yards. It falls incomplete. There you go. So the inconsistency from Bryce Young's there. the inconsistency from the offensive play calling is bad as well. I believe they ended up calling that a catch, but the point being, Diesel, Bryce Young is put in bad situations. He's bad, but he's also put in bad situations. The offensive line was bad. The play calling I didn't think was great either.
Let's talk about the defense, by the way. The defense that jumped off sides on 3rd and 10 would have given him 5 yards and a better spot for the 3rd down. Now, it didn't matter because Trevor Lawrence hit a wide open receiver for that 10-yard pickup on that play, and then he ended up getting another 7 or 8 yards after that.
That's right.
That's what Dabo would call a day one read. Wide open receiver, 10 yards down the field on 3rd and 10, and the Carolina Panthers can't defend it.
These are the worst play of the game was on that same drive. And yeah, you're talking about the Carolina Panthers defense. It wasn't great. The Jaguars defense, though, what's interesting is they gave the Panthers opportunities. That second half, that drive I was talking about a second ago, where it was 2nd and 1, then 3rd and 1, the Panthers ended up getting down the field on that drive, even though the offensive line play was terrible. You remember, it's like 3rd and 1, they hand it off, no gain. 4th and 1, early in the 3rd quarter, 4th and 1, guess what? No better. No better on 4th and 1, the pocket, no time again, and guess what he does? He throws, if you remember correctly, that was actually his absolute worst throw of the game yesterday. He threw it up in the stands. I mean, literally threw it up in the stands. There was nobody there. It was early 3rd quarter. He rolls to the left. There's nobody home, throws in the stands, and Bryce Young, once again, just absolutely boneheaded decision. There's so many things that go into the quarterback position. Run game, offensive line. Bryce Young didn't have help. Now, to your overreaction, because it is overreaction Monday, it's one game. It's one game. The Panthers come out next week, look like world beaters. Guess what? Everything's okay.
Here's the thing. I don't think it is an overreaction.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, again, if this turns into what we're used to, and you say you don't think it is because this is what we've seen now for how many years out of the Panthers under Bryce Young. Dave Canales has shown bright spots, and you have every right to believe that it's not an overreaction. But again, if we're just talking about this one game and one game only, Gamecocks and Bulldogs, we'll get into it. All of a sudden, South Carolina 2-0 to open the season, but SEC play is here, and we have the conversation on if the Gamecocks are ready for SEC play next. You know, there is a saying, Diesel, that you are who you are at some point in the season. And the question always becomes, at what point in the season are you who you are, right? South Carolina with a big win over the weekend over South Carolina State. But is this who South Carolina really is? We're going to get into Clemson at 4 o'clock. Want to hear from you, Tolos, as well. 844-326-3663. The Hub City Spartanburgers text line is open. A lot of text to get to as well. Several of you, Tolos, talking about the Panthers game over the weekend. Philip Rollins also says, on a positive note, the Spartanburgers made the playoffs, and I'll be there, Cole. Yes, they did. Starts Tuesday. Home playoff game in Spartanburg. We'll have actually coming up at 5:22 today, Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers, joining us on this show to talk about the playoff game. First ever season, Diesel, and already in the first year hosting a playoff game. Pretty cool. Pretty big.
Yeah, you know who got eliminated, by the way?
Maybe the team here not far from where we are. Is that right?
The well-estabhed Greenville team is done for the year.
I don't want to say up the road because they might be down. They might be south.
From where we are here,
you might get on to me.
That's out downtown.
Okay, so out the road. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Out the road. So, yes, we will talk Spartanburgers at 5:22 on the show. But, Diesel, South Carolina ended on Sunday morning. I don't know. Did you stay up for that fiasco?
No.
Okay. I don't know how many Gamecock fans did. I don't know how many Tolo fans or Tolos out there did. Want to hear from you, though, if you are a South Carolina fan, where you stand on the first two games. Because, again, going back to what I said to open the segment, at some point you are who you are, right? And South Carolina dealing with a lot of injuries right now. I don't know that right now is the ideal time for them to enter SEC play, but guess what? You don't get a choice. We were talking to Shane Beamer, Diesel, in the post-game press conference early Sunday morning, and when asked about injuries, Shane Beamer said he didn't even want to get into it. The injury list was too long. He'd update the media on Sunday afternoon. He did, and he ended up talking about how there were a few that aren't as bad as he originally thought. But just 2 games in, if you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan out there, want to know your thoughts on where you feel, again, going back to the conversation you and I had with the Carolina Panthers, Diesel, on if the first 2 games have changed your mind on where you think this team is and where you think this team will be, because now we have sample sizes, right? You and I did all the talk in preseason, but now we actually have games to help us understand where we think this team can be.
We do, and look, there's no hiding poor play. Looking at you, Clemson against Troy. But when you're South Carolina and you're punching way down at South Carolina State, and we saw a lot over the past 2 weeks of big power programs punching way down to, bottom feeder FCS teams, especially if you're going into conference play the next week. You don't want to put a lot on tape, right? So if you're South Carolina, you don't want to show Vanderbilt anything that they haven't already seen against Virginia Tech. So you run things super vanilla. You maybe even misdirect and do some things you wouldn't normally do to put some things on tape for them that they're going to have to study and prepare for that you're not even planning on doing.
Hopefully so. Hopefully that's the case.
If I'm a South Carolina fan, that's what I'm telling myself.
And you're making them feel better because they didn't look good Saturday.
No.
38-10 final score, right? Lenore's
it's a comfortable win.
Yeah. 11 of 19, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, a couple of texts already about play calling. Look, I just – here's the deal. If you're South Carolina, and let's say, Diesel, let's go to an imaginary fairy tale world for a second, okay? If Vanderbilt didn't play Saturday, can you go there with me for a second? Pretend like Vanderbilt didn't play.
Okay.
You're still feeling pretty good.
Like you're feeling 2-0.
You're 2-0, right?
Beamer ball has shown itself a couple of times.
You scored in all 3 phases of the game Saturday. Defense, offense, and special teams. Twice on special teams. You've got some dudes. However, the problem is, my concern, if I'm a Gamecock fan, is Vanderbilt did play. And Vanderbilt looked really good. And Vanderbilt scored 6 offensive touchdowns against the same team that you played in week 1.
Well, that's because Diego Pavi is 40.
It might be. But I'm telling you, not oftentimes in college football, Diesel, do you get this type of sample size. What do I mean? Not often do you get this early in the season a common opponent in Virginia Tech for both teams.
Sure.
Virginia Tech played South Carolina in week 1 in Atlanta. Last week, Vanderbilt in the second half just demoed Virginia Tech's defense. So going back to my point, then we'll get to the text line.
And you get them the following week.
Right.
In
right
such a short period of time.
A very short. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen often. If I'm a Gamecock fan today, I'm very concerned. I'm concerned about the injuries. I'm concerned about play calling. I'm also concerned about the fact that going back to that sample size and common opponent, in the second half, Diego Pavia looked really good. And against South Carolina State and an inferior opponent, and again, I know there was a 2.5-hour weather delay. I get that. But both teams had the weather delay. South Carolina State still had to do the same thing you did. I just didn't see much other than a couple of plays on special teams, Diesel, that really makes me feel good if I'm a Gamecock fan.
Yeah, I mean, that may be the bread and butter for this team this year, right? Is doing things in unconventional ways. It's not going to get any easier. It's going to get a lot tougher from here on out facing SEC defenses. So if you can hang your hat on that, and I know it's hard. You can't plan for pick sixes. You can't plan for scooping big returns and punt returns. But if that has to be who you are,
yeah,
and Beamer ball has to be who you are to put just to stay in games, that's going to be a scary thing coming forward.
All right, let's go to the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. Gamecock fans, phone lines are open as well at 844-326-3663. JT and Greer says South Carolina should have hired a real offensive coordinator. Mike Shula not getting much praise through the first couple of weeks. Jersey Joe says Jersey Joe's all pumped. Another victory in the upset picks challenge, up to 20 points now. He took Mississippi State. It's a big win, by the way. Texter from the 803 says my panic meter went from 4 to 8 out of 10 for Vanderbilt after Vandy outscored VT 34-0 in the second half on the road. Kind of my point there, right? From the 867, nobody's worried about Vandy. I'm worried about where I sit in the upset picks. I'm with you there. I'm still scoreless.
I have it in front of me, by the way. And I had an idea this morning because Dan B does a phenomenal job with this upset picks challenge.
Yeah.
We've decided to start putting little fire emojis next to people's names that are on a hot streak.
I like that.
Right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Tolos that have hit 3 weeks in a row.
And we've only had 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
We've only had 3 weeks, and I'm all the way back there at one point.
What do you put beside the opposite? Ice Cube? Is that where I get beside my name?
Skull and crossbones.
God.
This guy's dead in the water. He's not going to win. I do have the updated graphic Tolos. We will be posting that on our Facebook page and our Twitter page in the 5 o'clock hour.
Let's
so
go.
You're going to have to wait a little bit for that.
Yep, I like it. Team-wise, what's South Carolina do as a team? Well, I'll tell you this. They weren't good on third down. Really, really bad in that department, Diesel. 3 of 12 on third down on Saturday. And again, South Carolina State, an inferior opponent, respectable program. But at the end of the day, 3 of 12 against that team's not going to get it done in the SEC, right? Total yards, you were outgained. Think about it. You won the game, but you were outgained 270 to 253 on Saturday. 128 yards to the air. That's concerning. 128 yards to the air, 125 on the ground, 7 penalties for 48 yards. You didn't turn the football over, so that's a positive. But you let South Carolina State control line of scrimmage, time of possession. They outgained you in that category, 34 to 25. Smitty and I were talking about it Saturday night in the press box. You know it was 14-7 if you just take score for score.
It's
up
such
until
a
late
weird
in the
weekend,
game.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Look, take away before that final touchdown for South Carolina. It's what, 31-10, right? It was 31-10. Smitty and I were having the conversation. Take away the 2 special teams touchdowns, the special teams field goal, and the defensive touchdown. It's 14-7. Very similar to Old Dominion last year in the season opener and the home opener. Weather delay as well in that Old Dominion game where South Carolina struggled to beat Old Dominion by 4 points.
Also, I got a lot of flack for it last week on our Facebook page for saying that an ugly win, that was an ugly win, a 24-11 win over Virginia Tech. You take away that special teams touchdown, and you're talking about a 17-11 ball game.
Yeah.
Not good.
No, and again, that was a blip. I didn't know. We talked about it after you were in Atlanta. We saw what happened. You said a minute ago, if that's sustainable, that's fine. Talking about other faces of the game. The problem is week in and week out in the SEC, that's not going to be sustainable.
Right.
You're not it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get three other touchdowns other than offense, 2 on special teams. You're not going to have 2 special. I mean,
think about it. You're not going to be able to. Your punt returner is not going to be able to out athlete Vanderbilt's punt defense, or Missouri's, or Kentucky's, or LSU, or Oklahoma, or Alabama later on in the season. It's not something you can count on.
And by the way, Vakari Swain, phenomenal returns. 2 punt returns on Saturday. He also had one of the game against Virginia Tech. And Diesel, he has tied the regular season punt return for a touchdown record in 2 games. So he's got 3. If he gets one more, he'll hold it. Right now, he's second.
It's like a human cheat code.
Right. So, again, bright spots. Vakari Swain, what happened on Saturday is a huge bright spot. 107 yards. 107 yards off of 2 punts for 2 touchdowns. Super impressive. My only thing is, and we'll get back to the text line in a second, my thing is you should be 100% concerned about Vandy. Here's what I don't know. You mentioned it a minute ago. You were maybe joking about it, maybe not. I don't know if there's sandbagging happening right now. I don't know if Mike Shula's holding back right now or not. If you're a Gamecock fan, you're probably hoping that's the case. You opened up the segment with it. You're hoping that's true. You're hoping that they're holding back for SEC play. But even if they are, how can you not be concerned that Diego Pavia and Vandy scored 6 offensive touchdowns to your 2 on Saturday against SC State? You've got to be concerned if you're a Gamecock.
You can sandbag your play calling. You don't sandbag with penalties. You don't sandbag with dropped passes. You don't sandbag, and I'm not saying –
and injuries too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't sandbag or can't sandbag in a game. There's only a few things that you can.
Yeah.
And to the texter's point there about Shula, I watched what happened in App State's game this weekend. Dowell didn't look any better. Dowell looked terrible against an inferior opponent as well.
By the way, fans are always quick to compare OCs. Again, sample size is small in the tenure of Mike Shula. And again, I don't really count the bowl game against him. He'd been there for as the OC, 0.2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
RJ on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says Clemson and South Carolina both have an identical issue. Absolutely horrible O-line play. As the saying goes, misery loves company. So to RJ's point, I watched it pretty close on Saturday night, Diesel sitting in the press box. The offensive line wasn't good. And the offensive line is one of those positions where if one guy plays bad, it reflects on the entire unit. It's not like tight end. It's not like receiver. South Carolina's offensive line is an issue. And you can talk about play calling all you want. And again, going back to RJ's point, I think that's a very fair text because Clemson fans are having the same conversation about Garrett Riley right now. At some point, you have to look at what's around Cade, what's around Lenoris, what's around Bryce Young, right? Going back to our last segment. Yes, quarterbacks have to make plays. Lenoris Sellers right now has a really bad offensive line. Also, go look at what happened in the ground game Saturday night. What ground game? I mean, really, Howell, 7 carries, 30 yards.
Well, to your point, Cade Klubnik's the only one that has an offensive line that everybody was saying at the beginning of the season, this is an elite offensive line.
Yeah, Phil still had him top 3.
Yep.
Oscar Attaway had 1 touchdown, but it was from 5 yards out. Other than that 5-yard touchdown, Diesel, he had 15 yards off of 6 carries. And by the way, Oscar Attaway, the number 1 guy. Your number 1 running back against South Carolina State had, other than the touchdown, 6 carries for 15 yards. That's bad. Quarterback, 23 yards. Faison, glad he's by the way, glad he's back because those 5 carries really matter, right, for Faison. 21 yards. We made this big deal all offseason about how Faison was ineligible by the NCAA. He hadn't got the ball. He's got 5 carries. So, I mean, what are we doing here? The ground game's non-existent. The offensive line, Beamer started, Shed Surratt at left guard out of Gaffney. Shed played good, I thought, in the pass game at times. A couple of miscues. I also noticed Shane Beamer rotated, or Lonnie Teasley rotated rather a lot at left tackle. There were 2 guys going back and forth pretty much the whole game at left tackle. I didn't get to ask about the rotation, but I don't think this offensive line's anywhere where, in terms of personnel, where they wanted to be. I just feel like they've still got some shifting to do personnel-wise in order for this offensive line to get in a better spot, because they played poorly. And going back to the point about Bryce Young, when your offensive line is bad, everybody else around you, quarterback, running back, everybody else looks bad. And it is concerning. If you're entering SEC play next week, it really is.
You know, it's funny, Cole. You texted me midway through that Troy game and said, "Oh my God, if Troy upsets Clemson, this would make for great radio." This morning, here's the thing: I expected Gamecock fans to be piling on Clemson for their performance against Troy, but you don't have much room to speak right now, and it's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Pretty quiet. When we come back, Cole, let's take our whip around the sports world, see what's going on in a segment we call our Daily Wires. Out of the gate, talking Panthers and Gamecocks. Let's take a quick look over the fence, see what else is happening out there in a segment we call our Daily Wires, The Buzz. If you missed it last night, you missed a barn burner. The Bills scored 16 unanswered points in a come-from-behind win over the Ravens to win 41-40 with a 41-year-old fill-in kicker. His name is Matt Prater. He had a 32-yard field goal as time expired to win. He had just joined the Bills roster on Thursday.
I have an overreaction for our Overreaction Monday that is going to make absolute zero sense to most of you, but it's about last night's game. And by the way, the bad news is we had the best game of the year in week one. You will not get a game the rest of the season. What was it, 22 points in the fourth quarter last night?
Wild
game. You're not going to get a game that good the rest of the season.
Also, thanks, Matt Prater, for making me feel not old yet, because that's somebody my age out there kicking game winners.
Yeah.
Speaking of game winners, the Carolina Panthers were not one. They were completely outgunned by the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday. Final score 26-10. The Panthers managed just 3 points in the first quarter. Bryce Young threw for 154 yards and a garbage time touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, not good. Ted McMillan nabbed 5 receptions for 68 yards in his debut.
Not bad. You'd like to see some consistency. First game between him and Bryce, so we'll see.
How do you gauge if that performance was any good for Bryce Young? Well, you compare it to Michael Penix Jr., who threw for 298 and a touchdown for the Falcons. Geno Smith tallied 362 yards and a touchdown for the Raiders. Saints quarterback Spencer Rattler, how about him? He went 27 of 46 for 214. In his debut as a Steeler, Aaron Rodgers, God, I hate it when he does this, 22 of 30 for 244 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had himself an Al Bundy game.
Unbelievable.
Crazy game. And Russell Wilson, the other side of this thing, in his Giants debut, not good. 168 yards and a 21-6 loss to the Commanders.
I feel so bad for Rattler, man, yesterday watching that game. He put it on third down right where it needed to be. For a chance, by the way, the receiver landed in the end zone.
Ooh.
Talking about winning the game against a really good card. Like, the Cardinals looked good yesterday.
Yeah.
I feel bad. Rattler played good. His receivers didn't.
The Belichick Patriots saga continues. Cole, I don't know if you've heard this audio of Bill saying, quote, "It's obvious I'm not welcome in their facility. That's why they aren't welcome at ours." Well, today, Mike Vrabel said Bill is welcome in Gillette Stadium, quote, "to the best of my knowledge," citing the fact that Bill was there for Tom Brady's in-stadium team Hall of Fame ceremony last year. So what are you talking about, Bill? What do you mean you're not welcome in their facility? Because they just had you there like a year ago. Micah Parsons got a sack and 3 pressures in his debut as a Packer in a 27-13 win over the Lions at Lambeau Field. How do you feel about that?
Look good. I watched most of that game. The Lions didn't look good. They looked like they missed their OC, who's, by the way, now in Chicago, right? So Micah played good. I'm happy for him.
Turning towards college football, Tennessee will be without its 2 starting corners, Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson, against Georgia this weekend. That was reported by Pete Thamel. That's tough when your 2 starting corners are out against Georgia. UCLA backup quarterback Pierce Clarkson was arrested on an unspecified felony charge on Friday. He's been suspended from the team indefinitely, quote, "pending the outcome of the legal process."
Not good.
Yeah, UCLA, by the way, fell to 0-2 after a 23-30 loss at UNLV on Saturday. Nico went 29 of 41 for 255 and a touchdown. So not a bad game for Nico, but they still lost. The new AP Top 25 poll is out. We'll get into this a little bit later on in the show. But Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Oregon, and Miami are your top 5. Texas falls from 5 to 7. South Carolina falls from 10 to 11. Clemson falls from 8 to 12 after their ugly performance against Troy. Florida State back in the top 10, the jump from 14 to 10. And how about this? South Florida is ranked for the first time in 7 years after their upset win over Florida. They debut at number 18.
Big win. Bad loss, though.
Yeah, South Florida. By the way, Florida, they thought they were going to escape the upset by South Florida, but they fumbled the game away in almost every sense of the word. A 3-and-out from their own 40, followed by a PI by Florida corner Dijon Johnson, and then defensive lineman Brendan Bett spitting in the face of a USF offensive lineman, kept the drive alive for South Florida, and then led to the game-winning kick from Bulls kicker Nico Gramatica, son of former NFL kicker Martin Gramatica.
That's cool, man.
Denny Hamlin won the Cup playoff race at Worldwide Technology Raceway, securing his spot in the second round of the playoffs with his 5th victory of the season. Cole, there's so many conflicting reports on the infamous Phillies Karen. People have been saying that she was identified as a New Jersey school administrator. However, that seems to be false news that's circulating. It's really hard to tell, but the Phillies made it up to the young fan that had his baseball stolen by Phillies Karen. They had a meet and greet with outfielder Harrison Bader, who gifted the kid an autographed bat and ball. So pretty cool way to make that up to him. And finally here, you people who have been living in Greenville for a long time, construction on the site of the old Greenville Memorial Auditorium is set to begin this month. It's been forever since that building was torn down. It's been sitting there as basically a pit, but they are building a 29-story apartment building and mixed retail space that will be the tallest building in South Carolina once it's completed.
How about that? All right. We started the show, Diesel, talking about Bryce Young. We also talked Gamecocks, Clemson fans. We are now coming your way. Going to get into what happened against Troy over the weekend. Also at 422, we're joined by Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. We'll spend the next 2 segments talking Clemson. Want to hear from you as well next. Joe Diesel was pretty much hitting the panic button on Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, and I just would love to know, to start the 4 o'clock hour, where Clemson fans are in terms of hitting the panic button, thinking everything's A-OK, or somewhere in between.
I'm more close to hitting the dump button on
That's
the
fine, too.
Panthers.
It's fine. You can hit whatever button you want to hit. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Hour number 2 of the show. You can get in, Clemson fans, at 844-326-3663. It's the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. Phone lines also open at that same number. Again, 844-326-3663. Want to know where you stand as well, Diesel, on Clemson. What happened against Troy over the weekend? We will get Grayson Mann's thoughts at 4:22 right here on the Fan Upstate. He joins the show at 4:22 every Monday during football season. But I'll start by saying this, Diesel. You and I last week talked about the LSU performance, right? How Clemson looked against LSU. Today, on this Monday, after what I watched against Troy, even though it was a win, I am more concerned about Clemson's offense after a win over Troy than I was last Saturday after a loss against LSU, right? Might not make a lot of sense, but Troy, newsflash, if you didn't know this, Troy and LSU are two totally different types of opponents, right? One's really good, one's Troy. And no disrespect to Troy, but
They were picked to finish 6th, by the way,
in the Sun Belt.
in the Sun Belt West.
Oh, God, that's
6th
yeah.
in the division.
Yeah, they've always given, the past couple times they played Clemson, they've given Clemson a little bit of issues. However, I really am more concerned after a win, in terms of play calling. I know the second half was a lot different with production and what Clemson was able to do, especially statistically. But I don't know if Clemson fans are hitting the panic button. T-Swizzle's already commented on the YouTube stream where you can comment. You can watch the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well. I don't know that I'm all the way on panic button if I'm a Clemson fan, Diesel, but I'm sure as heck not satisfied. I've got to be majorly concerned right now about what's happening with this Clemson offense that had sky-high expectations going into 2025.
I mean, explain to me 2 really slow starts in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that LSU is a quality opponent. Their defense is really, really good. Might be the best defense they play all season long.
Sure.
But there's no excuse for why you get off to such a slow start against Troy. This is one of those games where even if Troy is a decent group of 5 team, you should be up on them 21-7, 21-3, going into the second quarter and kind of hitting cruise control mode from then on out. But I saw just no fire, no spark in this team until we got into the third quarter. And credit to Clemson, the defense shut them down in the second half. No points in the second half for Troy, and they were able to pull away off a couple extra spark plays.
I just don't know exactly what the identity is, right? When you look at this offense, because we talked about going into the season, we knew there were questions at the running back room. But we talked about how elite this receiving room was, right? And just like I told you all last week, Clemson's running backs would look so much better Saturday against Troy. They did. Adam Randall had 100-plus yards on the ground. We all knew that was coming. They're going to look a lot better against Troy running the football than they did against LSU, right? 30 yards of total rushing as a team, I believe, something like that. I just don't know. I struggle finding, much like I said in the very first segment of the show, Diesel talking about Bryce Young, struggling to find what the issue is with the inconsistency. Same thing here. I struggle with the identity, what their identity is offensively, because you and I hear coaches talk about it all the time. You want to be able to run the football and allow the pass game to evolve and open up from being able to rush the ball. But there's just no identity right now with this Clemson offense. And if you're not concerned, I don't know what to tell you. You should be really concerned about what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, beat Troy by 15 total yards, 316 to 301. You got outpassed in the game in a big way. Again, your rushing game, like you said, that's the only thing that saved you. That's because Adam Randall went off on a couple of big hits late there in the second half. But Cole, I mean, the scoreboard doesn't do justice to just how bad Clemson looked in this game. I mean, they were completely lifeless, awful on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. If you can't overpower a Troy defensive line, how do you think you're going to overpower Florida State? How do you think you're going to overpower Georgia Tech or later on in the season, South Carolina?
Well, you know what? We were having conversations after LSU. I was, you were, we all were. I was having them with my friends who are diehard Clemson fans, right? In the same situation, the same conversation, Diesel, we've had for a few years now. After a loss to an SEC team, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to balance your thoughts in terms of if Clemson's really bad or if the opponent in week one was really, really good. And the fact of the matter is, for all of those who were upset after week one, including myself, as I, voiced on the show last week, those people should be even more upset after week two. And for the crowd, for the group of people who are still sunshine pumping, I guess is the right term here, I think they're running out of content. I think they're running out of arguments because, look, is Clemson still going to win 9 or 10 games? Sure, they are. They should when you look at who they play this season. However, you just can't be on this 8th day of September. You can't be a Clemson fan and feel good about what you're seeing. In no way, shape, or form have you seen anything offensively that makes you feel like this team's a championship team, even in the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, I know that in college you don't get preseason games to kind of get the kinks worked out. You start in week one and you're off to the races. But guess what? There's a lot of teams that were shot out of a cannon. They looked really good in their week one and week two games. And for a team that is as stacked and as loaded as this Clemson team is, what did you say earlier? Phil Steele had him inside of his top 5 for a lot of units, but definitely top 10 for just about every unit.
Every unit was top 10 except for running back, right?
You should be fired out of a cannon. And also, points a big old finger right back at why didn't Dabo Swinney go get himself a running back out of the portal this year? I know the Dabo portal conversation, but he did it, right? He pulled Tristan, help me out on his last name, the wide receiver that he brought in, Smith, and Will Helt.
Yeah.
Two guys. You can see how effective it is. And maybe this is one of those things that slowly starts, melting that ice block around Dabo's heart when it comes to bringing in transfers. But if your best option is a converted wide receiver and you didn't even bother to go get anybody, even a depth guy out of the portal. I mean, there's all kinds of running backs in the transfer portal this year. You didn't bother. What does that say? That says Dabo loyal to a fault, really, really, really wanted to hope that his guy could turn it around and become a great running back. And it just shows, man, that was a bad choice.
Well, against certain opponents this year, he's going to look right. Against certain opponents, he's going to look like it was a really good story. I remember at the Clemson open house a couple of months ago, 2 months ago now, when we were there, Diesel, Dabo Swinney talked about it that morning. He said that he believed Adam Randall would be the best story in college football in 2025. Well, I got news. That's not going to happen. That's not, unless he, hits the lottery midway through the season, right? That's not going to happen. Adam Randall is a converted running back, to your point, against quality competitions, not going to prove to be a proven commodity, if you will. Now, I'll say this. I was more concerned after Saturday, not only because of what I saw on the field, Diesel, but because of what I didn't see, right, in terms of adjustments from week 1 to week 2, game 1 to game 2. We talk about it. We said it earlier in the show. Your biggest improvement comes from the game 1 to the game 2. There was just no improvement. And I know Cade looked good down the stretch against Troy, and he made some big plays and 4 straight drives of scoring, yada, yada, yada. Dabo can throw all the stats out there he wants. But the reality is, Diesel, I just don't know why this coaching staff, particularly on the offense side of the football, is not making adjustments throughout the course of the season, week to week. I'll tell you my theory, and I don't know where Clemson fans feel on this. We'll get to the stream in a second. A lot of conversation there on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Diesel, here's my theory. When it comes to adjustments that aren't being made throughout the course of the season, tell me what your thoughts are on this. I don't know that in the past decade there have been enough repercussions inside that building for average wins and bad losses. Meaning, guess what? We all know they play in the ACC. The next week, they usually bounce back against an inferior, terrible opponent. I don't know that there's been enough repercussions and accountability inside that building over the past decade for staffs and members of the staff to actually have to look and evaluate and reevaluate and look in the mirror and make changes. You're just not seeing changes made from week 1 to week 2. This team looked worse from week 1 to week 2, and you were playing a much lesser of a team. That's my issue.
Yeah, maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about as far as motivation for how to get coaches whose units don't perform in a game where they're supposed to form motivated. But it feels like from the outside, Cole, that there is a culture of handshakes and pats on the backs like, hey, it's all good. We'll get them next time. It's going to be easy from here on out. And look, I don't like being that guy who says, well, what if Clemson was in the SEC? But truth is, they wouldn't have that luxury, because the next week you got to face Georgia, and then the next week you got to face Oklahoma, and then the next week you got to face Alabama, and that's when you get exposed. And It goes back to something that I said last week. It feels as if Dabo has built this roster and built this team and built this program to be elite in the ACC, a lesser tier conference. I've heard the same thing said about Notre Dame, and we talk about them all the time. They're phenomenal in the regular season. They get into the playoffs and they get blown out. Well, why is that? Because they don't have a roster built to go toe-to-toe with Big Ten and SEC powers.
I just don't know ultimately when you talk about Garrett Riley, and I think that right now that's where most of the frustration lies. I don't know that ultimately Garrett Riley is getting the most out of the guys he has on the field, right? We talk about the mark of a good coach all the time. How many times do you and I talk about at every level, high school, college, and pro, the best staffs out there, the best head coaches, the best offensive coordinators, the best defensive coordinators are able to maximize the talent they have on the field. When you look back at the 2 years and 2 games that Garrett Riley's coached as offensive coordinator at Clemson, I just don't see how Garrett Riley has maximized his team, how he's actually gotten the most out of what's on the field, right? They always say the best coaches can do more with less. Well, that's not the case. Garrett Riley has more than just about everybody else. They have more talent, and they're still not getting the most. That's the biggest concern.
Well, unless you're Tom from Somerville, who said at the beginning of the season Cade Klubnik was not a Heisman candidate, in which case maybe Garrett Riley is getting everything out of Cade Klubnik that he can get. Maybe we've all just been led to believe that he's better than he really is.
T Swizzle on the YouTube stream, big Clemson fan. He says not panicking just yet. If we drop this next time, we in big trouble, not just this year, but years to come. Our play calling looks like stuff I used to draw up at recess. Dewey says go down 16-3 at the half next weekend, and you're not winning. JB says he agrees with Dewey there. T Swizzle brings up the point about the receivers not looking elite. I mean, I'm with you there, but who on the team does, other than a few players defensively, who does look elite, right? And that's the problem. Cade Klubnik, 18 of 24, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QBR of 42.8. We did this last week, Diesel, on the show, talking about Cade Klubnik versus the SEC. The reality is now, here's the bad part. You're starting to see not only a sample size of Klubnik versus the SEC, you're starting to see a sample size of Klubnik in more games where he's bad against non-SEC teams, a la Duke, a la Louisville, Troy. Like, if Clemson fans don't like the fact that we're bringing up Cade stats versus the SEC, bench him now, because if he continues to play subpar against the Troys of the world, I mean, there's going to be no Heisman conversation. We can put that to put that to rest today. The 8th of September, the Heisman conversation with Cade Klubnik's dead. There is none. He's not going to be in New York.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's concerning if you're a Clemson fan. You are not putting away the teams that you should be putting away, even when you have a clear and overwhelming talent advantage. And, what do we say in that first segment or the second segment there about South Carolina? maybe the offensive coordinators and game planning staff don't want to show too much. Well, I have a couple questions that I'm going to ask of Grayson Mann in the next segment that'll hopefully point in the direction of something very concerning that I want to bring up here. I don't want to give away too much in advance because I want you to stick around and hear that conversation with Grayson. But there was a tremendous lack of effort and a tremendous lack of fundamental sound football coming out of guys that are supposed to be elite players.
I just want to know what you've seen from Klubnik in 2 weeks that makes you feel confident. And again, Heisman conversation aside, you scored 10 points. Klubnik scored, 7 points against LSU. And, well, he didn't really score. It was Adam Randall who scored. So look at this. He had 230 yards passing against LSU. He had a QBR of 29.7 in that first LSU game, right? Saturday against Troy, he has a QBR, let me find it, 42.8. So you go from 29.7 quarterback rating to the following week against Troy, who's way worse than LSU, a quarterback rating of 42.8. How many interceptions? 2 interceptions to 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns against Troy. So your Heisman quarterback 2 weeks in has an average QBR of, quick math, let's call it 33.5, 34, an average QBR of 34 on the season.
Yeah. 2
touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One game he couldn't even get over 200 yards, and the other he got 230. I just ultimately, look, you can point fingers, you can play the blame game, you can say Garrett Riley, Dabo, run game, whatever. Ultimately, Cade Klubnik's not getting it done. There are other factors involved, of course, 100%. They always are. He has to throw it to open receivers, right? He has to hand it off to good running backs. He has to have good offensive line play. But maybe it's time we realize that overall, this Clemson team from a year ago didn't do enough to become elite, even though we as the media, a lot of media members, picked them to win the national championship. I remember, Diesel, you and I sat down with Will Vandervoort at ACC kickoff, and we love Will. It's a great friend of the show, but Will Vandervoort was basically sold a pipe dream. He told us that day that there was, I think we asked him if he really believed that this Clemson team could make a national championship run, and he looked at us and said, why not? And he named all the reasons as to why Clemson in his mind would go. And even we picked them. We picked them. We thought
I picked them to go 11-1.
Right. We bought into the hype as well. And they still may certainly win 10 or 11 games, but this certainly, as of today, is not a national championship team. To your point a minute ago, the beauty of it, though, if you are Clemson, is you are gifted the luxury of being able to figure this thing out as the season goes on.
Yeah.
There's that old country song, Life's a Dance, you learn as you go. In the ACC, you can learn as you go because, to your point, in the SEC, you're not afforded that luxury. If you were playing Missouri and then A&M and then LSU and then Alabama and then South Carolina, your season would be over.
You go on a 4-game losing streak.
Right. But for Clemson, guess what? They can still learn as they go because they're playing in a conference where, let's be honest, there's just not a ton of quality competition.
When we come back, Cole, we're going to try to figure a few things out about what went wrong on Saturday and about this program and team as a whole with Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. He's going to join us on the other side of the break. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. Well, the Clemson Tigers got the win over the weekend. Looked horrible for the first half and needed a couple of sparks late to get it done against the Czechs Nose, picked to finish 6th in the Sun Belt West Troy Trojans over the weekend. To talk about it and try to make sense of what exactly is going on with this team, we bring in Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. Grayson, now that we have 2 weeks of this offense looking awful, but the defense looking pretty good, where do you stand in the preseason level of hype that we had about this team versus how they're playing? Is this who they really are as a mediocre, bad football team, or are they just not playing to their potential?
I think it might be a mix of both. I think if we had a preseason hype ship that if we were crewmates on that ship, Diesel, I think we'd be taking on water right now and desperately trying to get it out. But it was a really interesting day on Saturday. I think that Clemson fans wanted that Troy matchup to be the ultimate palate cleanser, where you really were able to tell yourself after LSU that that's just a really good defense and perhaps one of the best in the country under Blake Baker at LSU. And you left that Troy game. Well, you had to leave twice since the lightning delay happened. And you think to yourself, is this who Clemson really is? I heard a lot of, is this 2023 all over again? So there's a lot of hype being flushed down the drain, and I think fairly so. And I think it's a Clemson matchup against Georgia Tech that Tiger fans are probably already worried about, and I think that panic meter is pretty high heading into Atlanta at high noon on Saturday.
You know, it's interesting, Grayson. We talked about it last week, but this let's create a pie all of a sudden, right? If we have this offensive pie and it's broken up into several different categories of failure as to why this Clemson offense isn't good. You just said you think it might be a little bit of both in terms of the hype and the poor execution. When you look at the pie, though, and how it's broken up in your mind, seeing what you've seen now for 2 weeks in a row, what areas of the pie are the biggest and the smallest in terms of the lack of or poor execution on the part of this Clemson offense?
Well, I thought a nice chunk of the pie against LSU was protection up front, and I really felt like against Troy that wasn't the issue for the most part. I felt like throwing Elijah Thurman in there has been a big boost. I think he's probably one of Clemson's more athletic linemen, if not the most athletic, and should be on the field for the remainder of the season, depending on how they want to throw out combinations. But those other pieces of the pie were Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik, and after watching the Troy game twice, I think Klubnik deserves a lot of the blame for how this offense has performed. It's been very uneven, a lot of erratic throws, decision-making. I look at one play in particular that kind of summates all the gripes I think Clemson fans have with him. It's a throw early against Troy. TJ Moore does his job, cooks a defender on the boundary with a nice little slant on the inside, and you can see on the broadcast that Klubnik's staring him down, and that second or two of delay turns what's probably a first down and more for TJ into a hospital ball and a drop, and Clemson has to punt it. He's just not seeing the field the way you think that a third-year starter should at quarterback. And I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of, but the quarterback that diced up Texas's defense and the quarterback that we're seeing against Troy on Saturdays feels like two separate players.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Grayson, we all know that Tom Allen can coach an elite defense, but we saw, especially on that first touchdown drive for Troy, I think maybe some of the worst defensive fundamentals that I've seen a Clemson defense run in a long time. You know, you see Ronan Hannafin miss an open field tackle when the linebacker kind of rushed the quarterback and left him out there on an island, just whiffed on the tackle. I saw Jamal Anderson get blown past on that 44-yard touchdown pass there. What is Tom doing behind the scenes to discipline or bring this team back to basics to make sure that the everyday fundamental tackles and positioning don't get missed?
I think that was kind of his goal throughout the offseason was we got to bring this back to basics, especially when the fundamentals were Clemson's biggest issue in 2024, whether it was the tackling or some of the gap schemes and just the integrity on that front were sort of the Achilles heel of this defense in 2024. And you've seen that improve to an extent. I feel like the performance was a little better against LSU. I don't know if that's the letdown of an opponent, the way that Troy's offensive coordinator schemed things up. But you're right, that first touchdown was pretty easy with how they were able to dial up. And I think the Clemson defense will take its time. I think Allen will probably be a few more weeks before we really start to see that identity. He's thrown a lot out there, whether he's bringing Ashton Hampton in on a cornerback blitz and sort of trusting Ronan Hannafin to occupy that spot, or you're bringing in a different hodgepodge of plays to try to create pressure when they've really gotten the ball out quick. The last two offenses, LSU and Troy, have made an effort to negate Clemson's pass rush, which arguably should be their best strength on the field when it comes to that side of the ball. So I just think it's going to be an adjustment period for that. A lot of teams are going to throw the ball quickly and try to get things out there and try to figure out a way to negate that front seven. So Allen's got his hands full so far. Sweeney said it himself that he didn't really love the consistency from some of those big plays that Troy was able to have. Felt a little bit reminiscent of the issues in 2024. But overall, that's not the side of the ball that I'm sure fans are overly worried about compared to the other side of things.
Grayson, what was Dabo's biggest, I guess, takeaway post-game in terms of, even yesterday, of what you guys heard from him? Because ultimately, when you take all of these things into consideration and throw them in the bag and shake the bag up and roll the dice back out, the buck does stop with Dabo. And whether it's defense or offense, at times the team just hadn't looked ready to go this season. So is there ownership, accountability there, or same old, same old? What in your mind, what do you think Dabo is saying, and what do you think he should be saying?
From people that I have talked to, I think the most appreciative thing that most been appreciative of from Sweeney was saying that the fans deserve better from that product that's been put on the field. And a lot of Clemson fans have very much been like, I appreciate that, because it hasn't been the best product possible on the field through 2 games. So I think there's been an acknowledgement that this team has to start faster. You look at the first 4 quarters of the first 2 halves that Clemson's played, they've scored 1 touchdown. And that's an Adam Randall power through on 4th down. So they were close to having 0 on the total count here. So I think Clemson has acknowledged that, and Sweeney particularly has said, we got to start quicker. But they also acknowledge at the same time that second half against Troy was the shot in the arm that this team perhaps needed to maybe juice some things up. Now, is that going to be you finally started turning things up against inferior competition, so of course that's what the result should have been from the start? Or you respect Troy enough to think, okay, that's a pretty good Troy team over there that, again, was picked to finish almost dead last in the Sun Belt, so take that for what it's worth. I think it's just kind of how you evaluate Saturdays. You're thankful for the win, but also looking ahead and going, this team's got to play a lot better if they want to accomplish any of their goals that they have posted on the calendar.
Grayson, I know 112 yards on the ground is nothing to sneeze at. Adam Randall had himself a good day on the stat sheet, at least, when it comes to yards gained. But you and I both know he's not a true running back. He's a converted wide receiver, and he was non-existent against LSU. So if you want to do the averages game here, he's averaging about 50 yards per game. Do you think that there's anything going on behind the scenes to maybe speed along the development of Gideon Davidson, who is a true running back? I know he's a true freshman also, but in any way, shape, or form, to get a guy who specializes as a running back up to speed so that he can take the brunt of those carries? Or has it been the plan all along to have Adam Randall be RB1 for this team?
I think it's the latter there, Diesel. It's that they really like Adam Randall behind the scenes. Did a lot of great things in the offseason, and Sweeney said multiple times that this offense really just hasn't had the chance. They haven't given Randall the chances to produce. And when Randall had adequate protection up front, was able to make things happen in that second half in particular, felt like Randall made some nice plays. I still don't think he's the most shifty guy. And I think with every great running back, there's that second or two of patience that they have behind the line of scrimmage while blocks start to open up. That separates your Steelers' Le'Veon Bell from your backups in college football. There's just that minute patience that makes them so brilliant. And Randall's still learning the kinks of the game overall. And so that puts you at a disadvantage when you don't really trust the guys behind you, in this case with the running backs room to make it happen. So positive second half for Randall. Overall, I think Clemson fans might be clamoring for a little bit more of a diverse look back there. I think Eziamume can give you something. Gideon Davidson certainly can give you something. He had a nice carry that produced a first down on Saturday. So overall, I think Randall doesn't necessarily give you the juice at running back, but when he's given the opportunity to make plays, it's been a slight positive, I'd say.
Grayson, do you feel like we're teeter-tottering, like it's a seesaw right now heading into Saturday's game against Georgia Tech with One side of it being, the season could be salvaged with a really good performance, and the other side being, wow, if things go poorly, then all of a sudden this Clemson team's 1-2, and maybe the sky is falling.
It's an interesting spot because of where Clemson has kind of played itself into, where that the balance is really tilting in one direction or the other, where Clemson could have been 2-0, or Clemson probably could have put up a better offensive performance against LSU, and you aren't as worried about it being 1-1. So
Right.
It just comes down to, I guess, who you ask. And while it's still really early in the season, and maybe we're talking next Monday if Clemson drops 35 on Georgia Tech, which I'd frankly be surprised at this point, given the evidence that's been rolled out in 2025. But yeah, there's an opportunity here. And you've said it on this show multiple times. I think Georgia Tech's a fantastic football team, a group that I've picked to be in Charlotte in December to play, who I picked Clemson number 1 to play them based off of the offseason prediction store for right there. So this is an opportunity where I think this is a quality win on Saturday if Clemson gets it done. How they get done may predicate how you feel about the victory, but getting a win on the road in conference play keeps you afloat at the very least for another Saturday. And so, Cole, I think to your point, it is kind of feeling like teetering is the right word, where one way or the other, we're going to have a pretty wild result on Saturday afternoon.
Well, Grayson, you use the word teetering. Here's another one, slide. That's how you could describe Clemson when it comes to the AP Top 25, and that slide from 3 to 8 and then 8 to number 12. Do you think that's fair for them to be where they are?
I don't see a top 12 team out there. So I think the AP polls, if you give me just 1 second to talk, I know that there have been greater personalities out there than I that have ranted about the AP poll and just kind of what a hodgepodge of a mess it is. But there's some rankings in there that I don't understand, and Clemson's certainly one of them. I would have dropped them much lower in the AP top 25. I wouldn't have Alabama in the AP top 25, and I think I'd have Florida State much higher, but I think the AP poll rides too much on preseason expectations, so they're still thinking, that's a top 3 team we had there earlier. We can't drop them that far after 2 games. So frustrating, but at the end of the day, the AP poll becomes kind of, I hate to use the word useless when we get the CFP equation into it. But man, I think if you're an AP voter, what are we doing out here?
And Grayson, for what it's worth, the S&P Plus data has Clemson as the 31st best team in the country, and that's
probably more fair.
Huge slide.
Probably a little bit more fair given what we've seen.
What do you think they are? AP to the side, S&P to the side, GraysonManTigerNet.com. Clemson in your mind is where in the let's call it top 25?
I'd give them probably 19, 18 right now. I still think they're good in comparison to the rest of the country. But there are some teams like Oklahoma that I think deserve a higher spot than Clemson after beating Michigan on their home turf, taking care of business in front of the home crowd.
Yeah.
John Mateer looks excellent for that squad. So I obviously no one cares about my personal top 25.
That's not true. That's not true. We all
I know you do, Cole. I know
we all do. The upstate, the world cares.
The world is maybe stretching it, but
Grayson, how do you expect to see Cade Klubnik sort of adjust and get to work, put his nose back down, get to work in this coming week? I mean, he's a senior, he's a leader. It's his job to probably be harder on his teammates than even his coaches are. Is he that kind of guy as a leader behind the scenes?
I remember one moment his freshman year watching him at a practice, and he was barking at some people that were a lot older than him. So I've never really casted doubt on his want or will or the ability to stay late at night and meticulously dissect film. And maybe that's part of the problem with Klubnik, is it might be thinking about it too much in a sense, where he's worked meticulously hard. I mean, there was a story I was given to from him at the Elite 11 this summer where he spent 45 minutes on one minute throwing mechanic with Jordan Palmer. And that's just kind of the kid that he is just that hard, put his nose in the dirt, could stay out there for hours and not break a sweat because he truly loves what he does. And so it's never been that aspect for it. I think for Klubnik on Saturday, if we're going to be talking here next week about a Clemson win, I think it's going to be centered around how quickly Clemson can start. And watching some of these games, LSU and Troy in particular, there's open concepts, and Klubnik really just has to find them. There was one or two where he had Tyler Brown in step, and he had Ezi Amume for a check down that resulted in a sack, whether he's holding the ball for too long or the release is too late. it's just not seeing the field well enough, and it's really puzzling for a quarterback that you turn on that Texas tape, particularly that second half, and Texas knows he's throwing it. The whole country knows that Clemson has to throw it, and he's dicing him up. So there's a good quarterback in there that he's just hiding.
Grayson, what concerns you most about what you've seen from Georgia Tech?
I think Georgia Tech's a team that just has that fundamental, sort of the comparison popped in my mind during the NBA playoffs. They remind me of the Pacers, where they're not a team that talent-wise they're going to blow you away, and you may think on paper that, man, talent-wise there's no matchup here, but it's a group that's coached by Brent Key that fundamentally is one of the best in the country. And I know Haynes King, his body is made out of paper at this point, but if he's on the field, you've always got a chance with 10. And then Aaron Philo is a quarterback waiting in the wings that can get it done. So they got a lot of talent on the boundary. Eric Rivers is a guy that I really liked out of the transfer portal, out of FIU. Yet to really splash for GT, but is a big playmaking threat. So offensively, the eye candy that they're going to be able to throw around with Faulkner, I think they're going to make it happen. And so this is a group that I think Clemson fans have rightfully been worried about as a game to watch for in the ACC this offseason. And that's only been magnified based on the product they've seen for the first 2 games.
Grayson, are we going to get another week of Chippy in your face, Dabo, saying it's our fault for buying into the narratives?
He might tell us to throw it in the mud again. We'll see tomorrow. He told us to write about how bad it was, and we got something on TigerNet coming out. We've been living up to the word. So we've heeded his request.
You're being obedient, Grayson. You're being obedient. He'd be proud of you. Appreciate you as always, man.
I hope to go actually win an underdog pick this week. It's been a rough start. Rough start.
Yep.
I got to not pick a North Carolina-based team.
That's the problem. Always the best.
Thanks,
Grayson Man, TigerNet.com. You can hear him right here on the Fan Upstate, 4:22 rather, on Mondays, talking Clemson, again, of TigerNet.com. Overreaction Monday is about 18 minutes away, Diesel. The Tolos will give them their chance to overreact at 5 o'clock, but you and I are going to give ours in the very next segment. What's our overreaction on this Overreaction Monday? I might have the wildest one that doesn't make sense, but does make sense in my mind. That's next. Tolos, 15 minutes from right now, you will have your opportunity to overreact about anything from the sports weekend at 844-326-3663. Overreaction Monday coming right at you. The floor will be yours in about 12 minutes, actually, on the show. However, Diesel, you and I are going to go ahead and overreact, and we may carry it into the 5 o'clock segment, just depending on the engagement at 5 o'clock. But I've got one for you that I never thought I would say. It really doesn't make sense when you hear me say it. However, I watched the Bills-Ravens game last night, as a lot of our Tolos did, 41-40. Bills get it done and score like 22 points. Yeah, I believe it was 22 exact points in the fourth quarter to get the win. The Ravens were up 20-13 at the half, a big halftime deficit. And my overreaction Monday, Diesel, again, is strange, but if you watch that game last night, you see just how explosive the Baltimore Ravens are, right? They've got probably more weapons than anybody offensively on paper with Zay Flowers, Lamar, and Derrick Henry. But my overreaction is, based on what I saw last night, I think one of the reasons they lost last night is that their offense is too good. I think their offense, I know that doesn't make sense. You're thinking, what in the world are you talking about? I think their offense is so good that they score so fast that their defense is asked to make so many more plays than their offense. It's a simple math equation. You go look last night. Baltimore scores every time they touch the football, it seems like, watching that game, right? Whether it's Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, or Derrick Henry. They score so fast. They don't kill you in the time of possession category on the stat sheet. Their defense, hence, is on the field a lot because they do score so fast. And then the fourth quarter rolls around, Diesel, and their defense is asked to make stops in crucial moments of the football game and critical downs, and they can't, and they allow 22 points in the fourth quarter, which, by the way, is atrocious. It's bad. You should never allow that many fourth quarter points, but that's my overreaction. I think the Baltimore Ravens offense is too good. They scored too fast, and that's why they lost last night.
Yeah, I mean, you hear from time to time, you hear offensive coordinators saying things like, man, we need to learn to slow things down a little bit. I mean, you wear your defense out when you constantly put them on the field like that. And so you can turn teams that are not necessarily on par with you, like racehorse thoroughbred offenses, you can turn them into that by the end of the game because you're just tired. You just can't keep up. You don't have the legs to go to run with a team like that all game long. They got to learn how to slow things down from time to time.
So look at the stat sheet last night. Buffalo had the football in time of possession for 10 more minutes than Baltimore did. 10 more minutes is a long time in a football game. Mm-hmm. Baltimore only had the football for 25 minutes last night. They score so fast. Yeah. They put up, listen to this, 432 yards of offense in 25 minutes. That is insane. If their drives lasted a little bit longer, if they had a little bit more ball control, Diesel, I think they'd be more effective as an offense. I know that sounds wild, but that's my overreaction.
My overreaction for you on this Monday, Cole, is that John Mateer is going to be your number one overall pick in 2026.
Wow.
In the next NFL draft. Garrett Nussmeier, really good, right? He's looking really, really good. But all the hype right now, all the hype is pointing at Oklahoma junior quarterback John Mateer. That dude is shot out of a cannon this year.
Been good.
And the hype train, if he can keep this going, I'm not saying he has to go undefeated either, but if he can keep these types of performances going, he's going to jump so many quarterbacks on the list. As of right now, and I'm on a website called NFLDraftBuzz.com, John Mateer is listed as the 10th best quarterback or 10th highest rated prospect, however you want to look at it. I mean, he's sitting behind Arch Manning, who's looked terrible. He's sitting behind Cade, who's looked terrible. Mm-hmm. He's sitting behind Nico Iamaleava, who looked terrible in his debut with UCLA last week.
Sure.
He's going to jump at least 5 of those guys. He's going to jump Carson Beck. He's going to jump Fernando Mendoza. Bet you don't even know what school he plays for. He's probably going to jump Sam Levitt. I mean, that dude has got so much hype behind him. And I'm telling you, I think he could be the number 1 overall pick.
It's quite an overreaction. It really is. It's good stuff. I mean, that's what we do on Mondays. 5 o'clock, we overreact. And I don't know, man. I feel like our Tolos are due. They've been a little slow off the jump today, Diesel. It's time for them to really step it up. And let's get these phone lines stacked up like we did a few weeks ago.
8 phone lines. That means 8 of you Tolos can get in right now at 844-326-3663. Don't wait to call and get pushed way down the line. Call now. Jump in there early. Your overreactions on this Monday coming next on the Fan Upstate. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 844 fan phone. You got something to say? Call in and shout about it. It's your opportunity to overreact over something you saw this weekend. And by God, just about everybody has room to gripe. Florida fans, where you at?
Oh, boy.
Clemson fans.
We haven't even gotten into that yet.
South Carolina fans, where are you at? App State fans, where are you at? They look terrible against Lindenwood on Saturday. Just a lot to complain about, a lot to overreact to, and here's your chance in this very segment to kick things off and show us how it's done. I think.
You were really bold with that take, weren't you?
Maybe that's the overreaction.
Show us how it's done.
Is that Dewey is going to do a good job? Dewey, your overreaction. Go ahead.
Yes, I got a couple of things. First of all, Clemson, your season's done. You I don't know what that Troy game is all about, but lightning, weather delays, or whatever, get together. Your season's done. You're looking at 3 or 4 ACC losses now.
Who are they? Who are those losses, Dewey?
Georgia Tech, Florida State, Duke, and Louisville.
Wow.
Those are the 4.
I mean, I could see 3 losses given the way they played against Troy. There's 3 losable games in there.
I'm just surprised Dewey actually got like the 4 opponents right. They actually play the opponents Dewey named off. That's what I'm impressed with.
Well, I guess, but they're going to lose at least. There's no way. Now, Georgia Tech, I still don't think they're as good as advertised, but I just the way Clemson played, it's Cade. They need to look at Cade getting replaced. I don't know with who, but Cade is not the man. He's not the quarterback. He's not even going to get drafted because Cade Klubnik sucks and overhyped. As far as South Carolina is concerned, their offense got to get together. They're not going to survive against. They may survive against Vanderbilt, but moving forward, they need to put up more points. They can't depend on special teams running a punt return down, because how many opportunities are you going to get to run a punt return when you get up against LSU and Alabama? Well, maybe Alabama, but when you get up against more quality opponents.
Right.
So that they're questionable. So I'm not sure. They can drop some games real quick if it doesn't improve. But on a positive note, remember Old Dominion? They looked like crap. It didn't look like Kentucky was going to wipe the plate with them, and then they came out and blew them out. So they could just do that with that Vanderbilt, but I don't know. And Florida sucks. And how in the world is Florida State number 10? That is a travesty. But
based on what, Dewey?
It's a travesty.
Why though? Why though?
What's your name?
They're just because they beat Alabama and then blew out some other high school teams 70-0 last week. Mike Norvell, they're gonna drop 5 or 6 games, and Mike Norvell's gonna get fired because he sucks.
Thanks, Dewey.
One more.
Go ahead. Let's go. Let's
by all
rapid fire.
means.
It's not football related. If you look at the baseball playoffs start today, if you look at the Dodgers, they're not in the best of 5. Will be in the best of 3, the wild card, and I bet you if that's the case, they don't get out of the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, they've been bad lately. Did you see the other night when they had that lead and they had their best pitcher in? I mean, to your point, all kidding aside, they have been horrendous. They're finding more and more ways to lose.
Yeah, the team is tore up by injuries, but they're going to barely win that division, and they're not going to get out of the first round of the playoffs.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks, Dewey.
To his point, though, Friday night they had a several-run lead over the Baltimore Orioles. Jackson Holiday comes up, basically ends the game. They hadn't been good. I know the Braves aren't good, so a lot of Braves fans have checked out, but the Dodgers have that's an interesting story. If there's nothing for Braves fans to pull for in the postseason, I'm all for us pulling against the LA Dodgers because they're, to Dewey's point, that they've got some issues right now.
Let's go to the phone lines again and bring on Dan B on the show. Dan, Overreaction Monday. Go for it.
Hey guys, I don't have a whole lot to overreact to.
Well, that's the point of the show. That's the point of the segment, Dan.
That's there. My pro team won. My favorite driver beat your favorite driver. I didn't get an upset pick this week. That sucks, and I'll lose my fantasy game. So
who's your pro team, by the way, for those that don't know?
Denver.
Oh, look good.
You should see, Dan. That you gotta learn how to overreact, Dan. You're supposed to call in and say, I'm just the best there is. I eat thunder and I crap excellence.
No, but the actual overreaction has to do with fantasy football. Because late at that game last night, Henry, I probably wasn't going to win regardless, but Henry lost points because of that fumble. But he didn't just lose points for the fumble; he lost points for yardage. And I don't understand. If you run 40 yards and fumble the ball, do you get the 40 yards in the positive, or do you just lose the 8 yards negative when you lose yards and fumble?
Did he lose?
I don't understand.
Back up. Did he lose points for that?
Yeah. He had 32 points. He fumbles, and originally they marked it at 28 point something, but they managed to make it go up to 29.2 because I think it was an 8-yard loss. So he lost 2.8 points because he fumbled and it was behind the line of scrimmage.
Oh, wow. It's a good catch.
I didn't know that fantasy football did that, and so that's what I'm asking. If I run the ball 40 yards and fumble, do I still get the 40 yards?
Oh, on the fantasy points is what you're saying.
Yeah, fantasy boy.
Oh man, what do you end up? What do you finish with?
29.2.
Wow, still pretty good, right?
Yeah, great game. But my team sucked because I lost that wide receiver Xavier Worthy, so I got 0 from him. So I'm pretty much not going to win, but it's whatever. It's fancy. That's my reaction.
Dan, real quick, I did look it up. So if that happens, let's say it's a 40-yard gain and then the running back fumbles. He still does get fantasy points for the yardage gain, but the fumble takes some away. So let's say it was a 49-yard gain. You get 1 point for every 10 yards in most leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get 49 yards, so it'd be 4.9 points, and then you get -2 for a fumble, so you'd still get 2.9 points for that.
Yeah, for the question. Hey, good job. Thanks for looking that up.
I didn't know that either. That's interesting.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, let's get to some of our text message overreactions. Texter says USF isn't as good as we think. Maybe Boise State and Florida are just overrated. Well, Florida had that game won, Cole, and we talked about it in the Daily Wires. They gave it away. They simply gave it away with stupid penalties that kept the drive alive for USF and gave them a chance to go down there and kick the game winner. Another texter says, this comes from Joey, says that 8-4 Clemson record I said on air 2 weeks ago is looking more and more like a prophecy rather than a guess. Somebody else who's not going to be high on the Clemson Tigers, he's going to laugh all day long about it. Tom in Somerville has an overreaction. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, guys. So, Diesel, I need to apologize to you because, I was wrong about Cade. He might win the Heisman. You know why? Because he showed grit and determination and leading his team back in a hard-fought victory, and that's what it takes to win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
It's moments like that. So I was wrong about Cade. He was incredible on Saturday.
I'm just glad that was only a one-way bet and it wasn't a two-way bet.
That's true. You
When
didn't say
I didn't bet that he would win it, and I would have to buy Tom a steak. So
sure.
I'm in the clear on this thing.
You are. But so I really have two. That was one overreaction. My second overreaction, if we're going to be, honest and realistic, as a Gamecock fan, I am absolutely terrified for what's going to happen on Saturday.
I said that 320. You should be.
I watched Vanderbilt on Saturday night, and the first half, I wasn't too concerned. And then I watched them make adjustments and come out of halftime. Guys, I don't know what Beamer needs to do, but they've got to figure out how to block.
Yeah.
Because if they start slow on Saturday,
Vanderbilt's going to run us out of the stadium, and it is going to be an embarrassing Saturday evening.
So,
and I'm being dead serious. I am worried about Vanderbilt on Saturday.
So, Tom, you know how every season there's always that one weird weekend where a bunch of ranked teams go down that in games they shouldn't lose?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think that what we saw this past weekend with Florida losing, with Clemson looking terrible, with South Carolina not looking good either, do you think that was that weekend and it just wasn't as bad as it could be, or is that still lurking out there in the future?
Diesel, I have a conspiracy here, and that this football season is going to be identical to the 2007 football season. Okay, and USF has a lot to do with that. But the last time USF was ranked in the AP poll above the University of Alabama was 2007. The last time they went on the road and beat an SEC team in week 2 was 2007. And we have had multiple top 10 teams get beat the first 2 weeks of the season, like we did in 2007. 2007 had top 10 upsets every single week. And it's early, I know, but it feels like this is going to be a year where we are talking upsets every Monday all year long.
Could be. And then going back, Tom, before we let you go to the offensive line for the Gamecocks, that was probably your biggest concern, right? Is that your number one concern right now?
It is. And because Vanderbilt, believe it or not, they've got some big dudes on that defensive line. And I'm just worried that if they start slow like they did last week, that they're going to let Vanderbilt hang around. And if you do that against this team, they're good enough to come in there and before you know it, you're down 3 scores.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I don't know with South Carolina's offensive line if it's a misevaluation on some of the talent or exactly what the issue is, but they hadn't gotten the production there that I think Lonnie Teasley and those guys and Sean Elliott would have liked to have seen. The production just hadn't been there. You've got some players that you thought would come in and make an immediate – Now, to be fair, you had a left guard starting on Saturday night, a true freshman making his first career start, right, against, South Carolina State. And I know it's an inferior opponent, but you've got some newness there. So going into SEC play against a team like Vanderbilt that scored a lot, to Tom's point, with a shaky offensive line, I think going back to what we said at 320, I think it should worry you if you're a Gamecock fan.
This is fascinating, Cole. JB on the stream is calling not one but 2 upsets here in the Palmetto State this weekend. He's got Clemson losing to Georgia Tech and South Carolina losing to Vandy in the same weekend. Imagine the chaos next Monday morning.
Have you seen the spread, by the way, on Clemson?
I have not.
Guess. What do you think?
3.5.
You think Clemson –
Is it a road game? It's
at Georgia Tech, yeah.
I'm going to say Clemson favored by 3.5.
You think it's – okay. All right, so guess South Carolina.
I'm going to say –
Vanderbilt.
I'm going to say basically a pick 'em. South Carolina favored by 1.5.
South Carolina is favored by 5.5 at home.
Why?
7:00 start,
We
by
haven't
the way.
seen anything to warrant that.
And Clemson, what was your guess on Clemson again?
3.5.
9.5.
Again, based on what?
9.5.
Vegas. I thought y'all were smarter than this. I thought you built casinos based on your predictions.
So wouldn't you take the Georgia Tech at plus 9.5 right now? I mean, can I go ahead and lock that in as my upset pick? I mean, I know it's not Wednesday yet, but are you kidding me?
Both of these feel like absurd numbers to put out there so that the betting just rushes in at 9.5.
It might happen. And I'll tell you this, if it's still 9.5 at 3:00 on Wednesday, that's my upset pick right now. I'll tell you, that is a surefire. I mean, that's as surefire as you can get. And it'd be a huge win, 9.5 points. I've got one more, Diesel, one more overreaction.
Okay, as do I.
I think this start to college football season, man, maybe it was just because of how good the NFL opening weekend was. I think the start to this college football season has been a little dull. I just hadn't been like super blown away, super impressed. There's been some good games. There's been some upsets. I know Florida State knocked off Bama last week, but I hadn't been like my socks haven't been blown off. I was enthralled with NFL opening weekend, from the Cowboys-Eagles on Thursday to last night's Bills-Ravens.
You weren't locked into Michigan, Oklahoma?
I watched it. I watched it on the TV while I was at the South Carolina game in the press box, so I didn't get like the full experience.
Yeah.
That was the most interested game I was interested in that day. But there were so many good games in the NFL yesterday, and even on Thursday, and even Friday night, Chiefs Chargers. I don't know. I just hadn't been blown away in these first couple of weeks.
I mean, we haven't seen anything explosive. We hadn't seen teams look the way that they should.
Great.
And granted, we said it before the season started. How many teams were going through coaching changes, coordinator changes, and quarterback changes? Those three things right there, a bunch of them being inside the top 25 and top 10, as a matter of fact. I kind of felt like we were in for a season where nobody was going to be that good, head and shoulders above everybody else.
So real quick, I've gotten like 3 texts since I just said that about 9.5. Here's what's wild. ESPN has Clemson, Georgia Tech at 9.5. DraftKings and all the other sports books out there have it at 3.5.
Whoa.
That's 6 points. DraftKings right now has Clemson minus 3.5. There's another one right here that has Clemson minus 4.
Go to ESPN and get it while you can get it.
I don't know that I've ever seen. Here's what I don't know. Like what an offshore sports book would have, if it would match what ESPN has. I mean, those lines are a little juiced anyways, but
offshore books, what are those?
I don't know what that is actually. Now that I think about it, I just never seen that kind of discrepancy. 6 points between two. I mean, that's bizarre. I mean,
maybe
what's
ESPN's
the reasoning, D?
bet is trying to throw something insane out there to get new users to come over and join in, because that's big.
FD has it at 3.5. I mean, I'm looking right now. This one offshore sports book that I'm looking at, 3.5. That I don't know. I don't know if that's surely it's not a mistake, is it? Here's I don't know. Dan B also saw it 9.5. I don't suspect ESPN would make a mistake that large in terms of a 6. That's weird.
They had a mistake, and Dan caught it. He called me while we were in commercial break last week and asked the question about Michigan, Oklahoma. Everybody was texting in with that one being 5.5 points, but when he locked it in at 3:00, it was like 2.5 points.
Yeah.
So somehow there was a 2-point jump in a matter of like an hour once people started going on ESPN.com pulling lines for the Upset Picks Challenge.
It's weird.
Cole, my last overreaction here for you is this past weekend was my first huge disappointment with Dow Loggins as a head coach.
Oh,
you had a team that did not look good, did not look crisp against Charlotte in its opening week, and then looked far worse against something called Lindenwood in week number 2, a 4-turnover game for App State. And it was a 20-13 home win. And the absurdity of being in that scenario against a team that just joined FCS a couple of years ago. And I'll reiterate my point from last week. Any player that gets the ball knocked out on the goal line and doesn't secure the ball all the way through the goal line should be thrown off the team, because guess what? It happened again 2 weeks in a row. An App State wide receiver has had the ball punched out from behind at the 1-yard line. Throw his ass off the team. If you can't secure the football, get out of here. We don't need you. Go play rec ball.
Diesel, we have playoff baseball in the Berg tomorrow. Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers, joins the show next. Well, it's time to talk about some winners. That's right, the Hub City Spartanburgers, who in their very first season have found their way into the playoffs. That's right, in the very first season. We're talking about it right now. Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers, joins the show. Tyson, exciting times, man. I know back in the spring when Fifth Third Park opened, there was so much buzz and energy about the opening and debut of this brand new baseball park and team. But for the first year in existence for the team to make the playoffs, it's got to be pretty special as the GM.
It really is. It creates an unbelievable story for us to tell. And then, in year one, you're creating a lot of history, and this is just another piece of that history that we're writing right now. So we're excited to see how far we can go in the playoffs, and maybe we'll have a little bling to show in a couple weeks.
That's right.
Tyson, I know tickets are already on sale for tomorrow's game. How do ticket sales? I know it's still early, and walk-up crowds are huge with minor league ball, but compared to just a normal Tuesday series opener, are you seeing a lot more rush to the website to buy those early tickets?
Yeah, once we got it out there, I think it was once we officially clinched. Got a little help from Winston-Salem yesterday with them beating Greenville. And then we did get the W yesterday, so we would have gotten in either way. But it gave us a couple extra hours to put it out there that we officially clinched. And once we did that, we saw ticket sales start to really move. Obviously, you'd like as much runway as you possibly can when it comes to that. But we'll take anything that we can get. And it seems that everyone's been really excited since we announced it. And so knock on wood, looks like some great weather similar to tonight. So we're hoping for a really great walk-up crowd and some really good energy in the ballpark.
For those of you out there, rather, that are just hearing about this for the very first time in the upstate, Spartanburg, Greenville, Anderson, the Hub City Spartanburgers are hosting the playoffs. Game 1 Tuesday, that's tomorrow, September 9th at 6:35. Game 2 will be Thursday, September the 11th at 7:35. And then Game 3 Friday, September the 12th at 7:35 against Bowling Green. Tyson Jeffers, the general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers, joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Tyson, when you look at how hard it is to do what you guys did in such a short amount of time, it felt like, put together the season, build the new stadium, realistic expectations. I mean, I don't know what they were from the clubhouse point of view, but for Chad Comer to have hired him first season to be hosting a playoff series, that's got to be promising for not only this season and the run that the Burgers could make, but also the future in terms of all the prospects that could come through this through the organization.
Yeah, I know he's really excited. Yesterday after the game, they were all celebrating out there, and he probably had the biggest smile on his face out of everybody. I know him and the Rangers are very proud of the players and how they were able to get it done this year and give themselves a couple extra games to play to continue to develop and continue to grow. And we've seen some amazing plays and amazing players come through already. So we're really excited about what they can do over these next couple weeks in the playoffs, and then start looking at 26 and how we can continue to build.
Tyson, I know, baseball is a game of streaks, and you can get on a heater and, win 4 out of 5, or sometimes you can lose 4 out of 5, but the second half of the season, really good for the Spartanburgers. Did you notice anything that really clicked in the second half that wasn't maybe quite there in the first half? Maybe it just took a half a season of familiarity to get things going.
I think it was just settling in a little bit. You started to see a little bit more movement between the players, guys coming up from Hickory, us sending guys up to Frisco. And I think once you start to see that, they settle in a little bit more and recognize this is real. They also become more comfortable with the facility, obviously brand new field and stadium. So they got to see how it played throughout the first half of the season. And then in the second half, you could see everyone be a little bit more dialed in on how kind of the home field could be advantageous for us.
Tyson, talk us through like the logistics, the actual game day experience. I've been to several games this year, and throughout the course of the week, you guys have almost different elements that you bring out on certain days of the week. Are the playoffs going to be the same for those that do plan to attend, or is it going to be some newness? Is there going to be some things planned for the playoffs that fans maybe haven't experienced yet?
We'll do our typical thing. You know, we always order a little bit over order on giveaways, and so we've been holding back some of those train whistles and those boomsticks that we gave away at games earlier in the season. So we're going to pull those out of the closet and put them out, and make sure that the crowd has, you know, a little extra something behind their voices and their claps to make some extra noise and make it a really good feeling for our team, and maybe not so much of a good feeling for the Hot Rods players. But yeah, we'll still bring all the fun. We do dial it in a little bit so we don't become too much of a distraction from them and upset any of the players on the field or the managers. But we'll still bring the fun, and there's going to be a really good product out there from a baseball standpoint.
Tyson, you got a game tomorrow night. Wednesday is off, and then you're back at it on Thursday, hopefully to just go ahead and clench this thing. But I remember one of the last times we had you on, maybe it was a few times ago, you talked about a promotion that got away from you. It was a food fight promotion where the team had to wake up and play again an early game the next day. So the grounds crew had to work extra hard. Well, with the day off, is there a chance maybe we do a post-game food fight again?
We might have to shelf that one until 2026. So those conversations once we finish up the season, we'll start talking about promos for 2026. And I'll make sure that that's at the top of my priority list to talk about for something we can all participate in. And if we do it, you'll be the first. You can start the food fight for everybody.
Nice.
Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers, joining us on the Fan Upstate. As far as tickets go, Tyson, is it the same setup as the regular season? Obviously, you guys have the suites up top and the Milliken Club as well. How's the purchase look for just a general fan out there who might be interested in experiencing a home playoff game this week?
Yeah, the best thing for people to do is go to hubcityspartanburgers.com and buy the tickets straight through our website. That's going to get them the best pricing if they do that in advance. So do that tonight. You can always walk up to the gate and purchase them at the box office day of. But I would encourage everyone to go ahead and grab their tickets tonight or sometime early tomorrow, so you're ready when you pull up to Fifth Third Park tomorrow night.
Now, Tyson, I know I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit here, but obviously with this first season being as successful as it was, you're still breaking in a new ballpark, and I'm sure some things didn't go exactly the way that you wanted it to. But the good news is maybe the fans didn't even realize that something wasn't happening exactly the way that it should be. What do you hope to maybe improve on for the 2026 season now that you've got a full year under your belt here in Fifth Third Park?
Yeah, we're always focused on making the customer experience better. So the fan experience, the customer service, anything that we can provide so people leave with a smile on their face. A lot of that has to do with the food and beverage experience, so elevating that, find out where our misses were, clean things up to the best of our ability, and unveil some new things that are going to be really exciting for people. And then also with all the fun that we create is making sure that we're continuing to innovate that product and have amazing giveaways, lots of great promotions that people can engage with, and break out the food fight. So I talked about both of those things. So I have to bring the food fight back, and we'll have to break the world record that we set in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Tyson, speaking of food, I'm going to put you on the spot. You might not know the answer. If not, that's okay. But what's been the number one seller as far as food item goes in 2025?
Hot dogs are always the number one seller. That's just
at a burger organization. Are you kidding me?
Burgers have been a close number two, and I will say compared to other teams, our burger ratio far exceeds teams across the country. So our fans are showing up, they're buying the burgers, they're enjoying the burger bar. The one that I hear the most, and that I think is just a little bit more unique that people aren't expecting, is the fried pizza. So when you come to a game, if you haven't tried it yet, you got to go to the Firebox Grill and get a piece of fried pizza. It's pretty unbelievable.
I was literally about to ask you about that because that's by far, in my opinion, the best thing there. And you stole the words right out of my mouth. You're right. It is. And you know what? I don't know for those that have been to a game, everybody I asked, have you had it, the deep fried pizza? No, we hadn't had it yet. This deep fried, it's kind of like a calzone. Diesel and I had it that day we did the tour.
Oh, it was amazing.
It's the best part. What's your favorite, though, Tyson?
It is the fried pizza.
Good.
Actually, like
Smart
we had it. We asked our food and beverage people to give that to the staff last night. So that was our staff meal during the game. So we all got multiple pieces of the deep fried pizza, which was a great way to end the regular season for us.
Now, Tyson, I saw a social media post from a guest that we've had on our show multiple times before, who just so happens to be the in-stadium play-by-play voice for the other team here in the upstate. Now, they've been eliminated. Their season is done. Hub City is still playing. I just wonder, is Tyson Jeffers going to send any kind of boo-boo thing through the mail, whether it be, a real physical item or a digital kind of raspberry to the other team here in the upstate, since you're still playing and they're not?
I think our social media team did that on Twitter yesterday with a pretty funny meme of it looked like Winston-Salem putting a beat down on the Greenville Drive, and we were in the background taking a picture of it happening. And I think they took a little shot back of us having a little brother complex. And even after we made the playoffs, still thinking about them, it's great banter. I hope we can continue that into the off season and into next season, because that's what's going to keep it fresh and keep it fun and make sure we keep the rivalry going. And one day it will hopefully be a Greenville Drive and a Hub City Spartanburgers head to head in the South Division of the South Atlantic League, which would be a lot of fun for everybody here.
Tyson, do you know off the top of your head what the series record was this season between the Spartanburgers and the Drive?
Yeah, it was 13-11 Spartanburgers.
Attaboy.
We came out on top, just barely, but we'll take any advantage we can get.
Absolutely. Tyson, as always, man, we appreciate you. And, man, I hope to see you tomorrow night. It's exciting. The entire season was already exciting enough with it being the inaugural season. But to have playoff baseball, man, that's a lot of fun. Best of luck to you guys. And as always, we appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. See you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Tyson Jeffers, general manager of the Hub City Spartanburgers. How about it, man? Playoff baseball, Diesel.
It's amazing to say that the first season is gone already. I mean, it's not quite gone because they're still in the playoff, but the first regular season, it has gone by so fast. This summer feels like we had part of our summer stolen away from us after 3 weeks straight of heavy rain just about every day. It doesn't feel like summer should be over. I don't like that.
It is. It's cooling off, man. And it's going to be cool. Like Tyson said, the next few nights, I guess they're starting or ending the season how they started it. Nice weather, cool nights. And might have to throw on a jacket or something if you're going out there tomorrow night. It was cool this morning when I walked out at like 6:30. It was actually cold. Not cool, but cold. So I don't know, man. I'm hoping to make it out tomorrow night. Playoff baseball should be a lot of fun in the Berg tomorrow.
A lot of people have been asking, Cole, it is time for us to finally give the Week 2 Wire-to-Wire Upset Picks Challenge standings, and we're unveiling a brand new element to the graphic that you told us. If you haven't seen it yet, you're going to love it. We'll get into it next. Well, Tolos were clamoring for it as soon as the show started, Cole, and we've got them right now. Your updated Week 2 upset picks standings.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. I'm right there with you. You have
No, you're
points.
not. No, you're not.
You have no points. I have 1 point.
That's not right there with me.
You might as well be in the same spot.
You've at least hit this year. I haven't.
It's crazy. We actually had to reformat the graphic, Cole, so that we could fit all the names on the list, and this thing just keeps growing every single week. So to not waste any more time, USC Justin is currently in the lead at 34 points worth of upsets already in week number 2. We've had 3 games, week number 2. Again, make sense. Gamecock Tim, he's got 33. Dave Mosley in third place with 30. Rory in Spartanburg has 24 points. Bo from Greer in 5th. He's tied with Kane's Transplant at 23 points, as is Mitchell from Gaffney. Jacob in Spartanburg has 21. Jersey Joe and Justin L. round out the top 10 with 20 points each. And then sitting right there in 11th place. By God, she doesn't even watch the games, Cole. She just takes my suggestions and picked one. And my wife, who's listed as F.U. Ashley, has 17 and a half friggin' points.
You said 11th place?
She's in 11th.
That's insane.
Right.
I don't understand something, though. If you gave her a suggestion, why didn't you do what you suggested to her?
Because I didn't think USF was going to upset Florida.
Well, you should have. You should have done.
Like,
let me tell you,
it was a lean, right? I was thinking about it. I was like, USF looked really good, but it's Florida.
Well,
Come on, it's Florida.
Diesel, why don't this weekend you suggest something to her that you know is not?
I thought I did. I thought I did. That's the thing, and it hit. A couple of Tolos hit on that one as well. WVU fan 214. JC, Shane and Sugar Tit, and Keith and TR. They all have 17 and a half points, which means they all hit on that one. But what we've unveiled this week, Cole, the brand new feature on the graphic, and Tolos, again, you can go find it on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search for the Fan Upstate. We have now started including little fire emojis, Cole. So if somebody is on a hot streak, like playing old NBA Jam, he's on fire. You'll know it, right? Justin L. So USC Justin, Gamecock Tim, Rory from Spartanburg, Bo from Greer, Kane's Transplant, Who's Your Daddy, Nashty, and Tom in Somerville have all hit on 3 straight upset picks to start the season.
And there's only been 3 weeks. That's insane. Yeah. It really makes me mad. Western Kentucky, by the way, this past week got obliterated by Toledo. That was my upset pick. So I absolutely had 0 shot from the very beginning of that game. I just – 3 weeks in a row, Diesel, I've missed badly. I think this week I'm not going to try. I'm just going to pick I mean, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating not to be able to hit. I just hope and pray that Clemson plus or Georgia Tech plus 9.5 sticks around.
We have 81 Tolos on the board right now. These are some stats that Dan has sent in with me, sent in to me so far. He says 10 Tolos hit on that USF upsetting Florida game for 17 and a half points. It's crazy, Cole. I think last year was the most we've ever had as far as the winner finishing around 84 points. We're going to blow that out of the water this year. I think the Tolos, they're going to keep on hitting because this year is so hard to pick upsets that even the big ones have a good chance of hitting.
And that's what's frustrating, you know. It's like how does your wife hit on? And what was the game on that, by the way? The one she
South
hit?
Florida over Florida,
and it was worth a lot.
Yeah,
I mean that's what's frustrating, man. That's so frustrating.
So I wonder how many Tolos are going to take USF to pull the three-peat upset.
No,
because USF plays Miami this weekend.
What's the spread?
I don't know off the top of my head.
3 in a row. You're saying. They would be, if they were to hit, they would have hit 3 weeks in a row. That's insane. I don't know exactly how many times that's ever happened. I don't know how much longer will they continue. By the way, the spread on that game.
17 and a half.
Whoa.
That's 17 and a half again.
Whoa. 17 and a half. Are you kidding me? That seems like a lot of points, doesn't it?
Here's the thing, though. South Florida didn't look great in their game against Florida. They won with 18 points, and they needed Florida to act like complete screw-ups at the end of the game to have a chance to go win that thing. I mean, if you're Billy Napier, think about this. Your job is on the line because your idiot defensive lineman spit in the face of an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And I get where you could say, oh, well, it's his job to maintain discipline among the team. But, like, in that moment, a defensive just spit on somebody. Who spits on somebody?
You can't blame the guy. All he did was watch Thursday Night Football.
Dak did it.
You know what I mean? No, he didn't. Dak didn't spit on anybody.
Instigated.
He didn't spit on anybody. He just watched Thursday Night Football, and they pretty much told him what to do. So, we'll see. We'll do a segment tomorrow. I don't know exactly what time, but we'll do a upset pick early leans tomorrow as this thing kicks back up on Wednesday.
I feel like I should take all the ones that I'm interested in, throw them in a hat, and just pull a piece of paper out, because that's going to give me a better chance of getting one right.
What I'm going to do is take the ones I'm interested in, discard them, and then pick another one.
Just go for the big one?
No, just pick it up. I mean, I have no luck. I have no strategy. I think I've hit twice in like 2 years on this.
But here is a reminder, again, for you Tolos who haven't got into the challenge or maybe haven't even scored yet, Cole, is keep playing, because you can get on a heater maybe starting this weekend. You go on a heater, you hit 2-3 in a row, and you could be back up there. There's nothing that says that any of these Tolos who are sitting at the top of this list are going to continue on this hot streak.
Yeah.
They could go ice cold for the rest of the season, and you could pass them just with a couple of good picks.
Well, you make me feel better. You make me feel a lot better. Listen,
I charge $100
Blitz,
an hour for my therapy sessions.
I appreciate that. An audio blitz will also make you sports fans out there feel a lot better. So much audio gold from the weekend. We'll have it for you next.
What would you do if you won the big Powerball jackpot?
I'll tell you exactly what I'd do with the first $70 million. I'd pay off Kalen DeBoer and get him the heck out of the University of Alabama, and then I'd take whatever else it took to get rid of the AD. Old Byrne, I don't like him either.
Old Byrne. That's where we start the 6 o'clock hour. The audio blitz, a sports soundtrack for you. Tolo's out there. That woman, man, if she's single, I bet every hick in Alabama wants to marry her now. And she was asked, Diesel, what she wanted to do if she hit the Powerball. And her first $70 million, she says, would go to buy out Kalen DeBoer. She would also want to get rid of Old Burr as well, the AD. I don't know that you can start an audio blitz with any more audio gold than that.
So you're telling me that beating up on UL Monroe of a score of 73-0, is that going to talk her off that ledge at all? Because that feels like a hate crime, to be honest.
Maybe for
73-0.
Maybe for 30 minutes, right?
I mean, they couldn't even get a garbage time field goal. ULM,
that's bad.
Probably the highest, richest program in college football against the poorest. And by poorest, I mean it. They have the lowest budget in FBS football in ULM.
No, I think for 30 minutes or so it might. A lot of audio to throw at you in this very segment. It is the audio blitz. How about John Mateer? You mentioned him earlier in Overreaction Monday. He was sensational in the 24-13 win over Michigan. Here's what he said post-game.
Right now? We're going right now. We're live on TV right now. What do you think about winning over Michigan, a game of blue bloods, a historic matchup, and you just won it, John?
We've been excited for this game. Thank you so much. For a long time, and I'm proud of these guys. I mean, we beat them, and we didn't play our best game with a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of things we need to clean up. I'm so proud of my teammates.
You said when you walked on this field last week to play, it was surreal. Tonight, you look comfortable in this building. How did you get comfortable so quickly?
I know that these fans have my back. These fans have all of our backs, and I threw a pick, but next time I go on the field, they cheer me on, and I appreciate that so much, so Boomer.
You used your legs so effectively and efficiently tonight. They couldn't catch you at times. How are you able to mix that in with the pass?
It's dangerous. +1 run game is not good for defensive coordinators, and they don't like it, and I'm glad Coach Arbuckle trusts the ball in my hands, and I'm proud of the O-line and the running backs, tight ends blocking it up.
Speaking of the O-line, that long drive to end the game and eat up the clock, how do you describe that?
Yes, ma'am. That's what it's all about. It's not the flashy stuff and the big plays. It's the gritty hard work and the urgency that we played with on that drive. And that's football. That's how you win.
I don't know what's more American than John Mateer being interviewed while Toby Keith's playing in the background and the entire Oklahoma crowd is singing along to How Do You Like Me Now? But Diesel, is John Mateer what we thought Cade Klubnik was supposed to be in 2025?
He's incredible. He is. He was poised in that interview. Boomer. He just drops that in randomly, nonchalantly. If I'm John Mateer, I'm thinking I'm just dropping in Boomer at the end of every single sentence. Boomer. The way that Dewey drops in his
that's right
throughout the conversation. John Mateer needs to just go Boomer.
I'm telling you, man, the guy is impressive. There was no boos for John Mateer. However, there were boos for Clemson on Saturday against the powerhouse Troy. Here's what Dabo said about the boos in Death Valley.
Yeah, I was booing too. I was booing too. Yeah, I was booing too. I was booing too. I was booing.
That's just weird.
Did you hear me booing? I was booing right along with them. No, I was booing with them. Yeah, I was booing too. No, it don't bother me. Hey, man, high expectations are high here, man. Hey, we got to play better. And, this is a place that cares. And, we show we care about how we play. And so, that's part of the game. It's a passionate place. And I was right along with them.
I was booing too. That's a soundbite, isn't it? That's a new soundbite.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney says he was booing too.
Put it on the sound wall.
Look, there were a lot of boos. There were boos at Williams-Brice Saturday night as well when that offense was lackluster at times. I love home crowd booing their own team. I know that might be unpopular take, but he said it right. They have high expectations. They should, right? You built the expectations. You set the expectations. Don't get mad when fans boo.
Hey, these fans paid for a beatdown. They paid for an ass whooping. When they bought their tickets to come see Clemson play Troy, they expected to see a 50-7 ball game.
Yeah.
And if they're not getting that, if they're not getting to take shots for every touchdown they score, they're going to get mad. And that's okay. I mean, that's what they've come to expect. And I'm glad that Dabo isn't saying, well, gosh, our fans, they've gotten spoiled. Who was it a couple of years ago? Was it Nick Saban? Wasn't it Nick Saban who was talking about fans getting spoiled?
Might have been. Dabo also said this.
How about 27 straight unanswered points, 5 straight scores, and a 4.5-minute drive to end the game? I mean, he was very, very disappointed in how he played last week. Just some massive missed opportunity on tape. Massive. And on basic stuff, and just he was sick, and so he went right back to work. Focus on what you control, and that's how you respond. A lot of things happen to all of us in life, but your response is what ends up determining the outcome. And then to have everything against you, and you're down 16-3, or down 16-0, and you got a pick 6, and now what are you going to do? Well, how about 27 straight unanswered points, 5 straight scores, and a 4.5-minute drive to end the game? How about that? That was freaking awesome.
Dabo Swinney could somehow, some way sit in the room and watch paint dry and make it sound like the most incredible thing in the world. He really could. Okay, doing that against Troy. How incredible.
Here's how he do it. He's like, look at that. Look at that color on the wall right there. Paint's not even dry yet. Color looks a little weird, doesn't it? Looks a little dark. Looks a little splotchy. Just give it time. Just give it time. It dries. It's even. Man, it looks great, doesn't it?
He would do a fantastic job. How about the Mississippi State Miracle on Saturday night? Speaking of upset pick challenge, Smitty was sitting right beside me, Diesel, in the press box Saturday night, and he was excited. He said, hey, look, I've hit. He said, the only thing I care about is hitting my upset pick. Here's how it sounded.
Warming up on the sideline. 2 plays to get 9 yards to keep the game going. Pressure was picked up. Shapen, wide open, caught across the middle. Thompson, touchdown.
Listen to that crowd, man. As Mississippi State had that much to cheer about in that long, cowbell. Are you kidding me?
I mean, they beat a ranked team at home.
They beat a ranked team.
Win.
That's huge for Mississippi State.
Yeah. Don't take us away from them, Cole.
No, it's huge. Here's what the quarterback said after the win.
What did it take for this team to close this game out today and get this win?
It meant everything. It's a dream come true. Playing a really good opponent. I'm blessed to be out here and play this game.
Tell me about those 2 big plays to end this game. The touchdown pass and then Hunter Washington stealing it for you.
I mean, they do. I've been seeing that. I can't even talk right now. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
There's nothing like Mississippi State.
Oh, man.
You've made it, Diesel, when Mississippi State's chanting SEC, right?
Beating the chest of the conference.
Oh, man.
Starkville. That's crazy.
Who would have had that on their bingo card? All right, that's enough college. To the NFL we go, Diesel. Let's go. Oh, boy. I'm gonna throw one right at you, starting with your guy, Aaron, after the big win. What was it like beating Aaron Glenn? A little bit of bad blood?
Is there significance in that, since he basically told you to your face that he didn't think you were right for that team?
Yes, that's what he did.
So there's significance in beating him for you?
I was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets.
Ooh, I like that. Happy to be. But you know what? Like you should be. Love him or hate him, right? You should be.
He's really good.
Really
4
good.
touchdowns.
Who saw that coming, by the way?
Not me.
I mean, that was a big day, man.
I thought his skills were declining.
That was one of the better games. And that's what, going back to my overreaction, Diesel, you look at the NFL yesterday, starting with Thursday night, that Cowboys game, 4-point game. Yesterday, the Cardinals-Saints game. I mean, incredible game. Spencer Rattler was really good. The Raiders-Patriots 1-score game. Steelers, Jets, Diesel, 2-point game. Giants, Commanders was pretty close. Bengals, Browns, 1-point game. Bucks, Falcons, 3-point game. Niners, Seahawks, 4 points. Titans, Broncos, 1 score. Texans, Rams last night, 19-4 or 14-9. And then Ravens, Bills, 1-point game. Just some incredible football games. I can't recall an NFL opening weekend that had that many tight games. A couple of blowouts.
Yeah, the Panthers game was incredible for another reason. How can you look that bad against what is on paper a bad football team?
Wasn't really tight, was it? It wasn't. What about Brian Daboll, Diesel? Did you see how bad they were yesterday? Offensively, 6 points. Defensively, they weren't terrible. Washington won 21-6. Here's what Daboll said about Russell Wilson after the game.
Safe to say that Russell was still your starter?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're just right here after the game. I got confidence. We got to do better around overall, coaches, players, around everybody. So this game isn't on Russell Wilson. It's not on Russell Wilson. I want to make that clear.
So Daboll says the game wasn't on Russell Wilson. However, Russ yesterday, Diesel, was 17 of 37.
No, that's not good.
168 yards.
Terrible.
4.5 yards per pass.
Sucks.
0 touchdowns.
Awful.
And a QBR of 25.6. So if the game wasn't on him, Brian, yeah, who was it on? I mean, who was the game on? It wasn't on Malik Neighbors. He had 71 yards. Decent day for him on the ground. But the kicker was good. The punter was good. The water boy was good. Here's the question. Here's where we are now, Diesel, with Russell Wilson. And I talked about this how many times during the offseason, with this being the most fascinating quarterback room in the NFL with him, Jackson Dart, and Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. How long until Jackson Dart's the guy? Not long.
I mean, if I'm the coach and I see another 2 performances like this, I'm saying week 4.
That's what I'm saying.
Week 4.
You got the Cowboys this week. Their defense is really good against Philadelphia. If Russell goes out there and again is over,
you might make the move mid game.
I mean, what
have you got to lose?
I know.
That's what I want to know.
I know. And don't you feel like at some point Brian Daboll is kind of coaching for his job? Like he's got to win games? Their schedule's brutal.
It's been all downhill for this franchise for a couple of years.
It's been bad, but like if you have Jackson Dart, doesn't he kind of seem like he might be? Look, he's not going to save the franchise.
Most popular guy on any team when you're losing is the backup quarterback.
That's right. Throw him in there. Terry Bradshaw, what was his opinion on what Jerry Jones did? If you love NFL on Fox, you'll love this from Terry Bradshaw. But do you agree with what Terry had to say about Micah and Jerry Jones?
I think Jerry Jones did the right thing. I don't blame him one bit. I would have unloaded him. Saves me a ton of money on the salary cap, number one. All right? He's automatically getting 2 more first-round picks to go with the 2 he's already got. And who's to say that at the end of this year, if things don't work out, somebody's going to get traded and pick up another one. Jerry Jones is sitting in the driver's seat. I think it was a smart decision. And here's the one thing about Jones, whether or not Parsons was a difference maker or not with the injury to the back, and you tell me that's no big deal. I disagree.
I'm not buying it.
Okay, I do. But anyway, here's the thing. Jerry Jones had to answer to no one to make this trade. It wasn't the Jimmy Johnson trade when Jimmy moved Walker and they got the 6 players and they unloaded the 6 players, which equaled 6 draft picks. This is going to be the same thing, though. Good move by Jerry Jones.
Is he right? Is he wrong?
We just don't know.
I don't know. Too early to tell.
We just don't know.
Yeah, too early to tell, right?
Cole, have you heard the audio of Bill Belichick commenting on Patriot scouts being banned from UNC practices?
We're not welcome here.
Here is the audio.
I thought that was it.
No, there's a little more to it than that. Here's Coach Belichick.
Reports this week of New England Patriot scouts being banned from practice. Just want to give you the opportunity to comment on that and provide some sort of explanation on that.
Yeah, well, no, it's clear that I'm not welcome there around their facility, and so they're not welcome in ours. Pretty simple.
Reports this week.
I'm not welcome at theirs, so they're not welcome at ours. I just wonder where he's getting this information
You
from.
were in the building less than a year ago, Bill. What are you talking about?
Things have changed, I guess, right?
Have you ever seen the movie Grumpy Old Men?
No, I
haven't. It's a classic, maybe early 90s movie. Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon. They were 2 grumpy old men, exactly at what the title of the movie is, and they just feud. They just feud. They're next door neighbors. They've known each other since they were little kids, and they feud and they play pranks on each other. That's what Bill Belichick sounds like right now. He sounds like a grumpy old man who's he's butthurt about something. The Patriots don't seem like they're the butthurt ones. And I brought this up was it Thursday or Friday when we had a segment on it? If I'm a recruit looking at going to North Carolina and there's a coach who's that much of a petty B word, maybe I think twice about going to play for him.
No, I'm not. I mean, not wrong. It's weird. It does seem a little petty, right? Speaking of petty, one more from Aaron Rodgers.
They look pretty comfortable in this Arthur Smith offense. Yeah, there's a lot of garbage being talked out, about myself or Arthur or whatever out there, how we're going to coexist. We got a great relationship. He called a really good game. I got to play a little better. Happy to be 1-0.
Happy to be 1-0, says the quarterback. And then one more piece of audio. Liam Cohen. Diesel, we talked about what Travis Hunter would actually be able to do in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Jaguars got a big win over the home team, Carolina Panthers. Here's what the head coach said about Travis Hunter's role continuing to expand.
What did you think of Travis Hunter's performance today? And is that kind of the way you guys want to use him going forward, mostly offense?
No, I think that was game one. I think that was week one where you missed 10 days or so, and there was some, a lot of different kind of coverage changes in the back end for us with some of their formations, adjustments. It was a lot that those guys had to handle defensively. And so it was maybe, a little bit less for him this game. I think it'll only continue to evolve and go more. I thought he played hard on offense. I thought he played fast. He had some good catches, ran the right route. So I can only see it going and expanding from here.
So while it wasn't like both ways like we thought it might be, Diesel, him playing 100% of the time on defense, 100% of the time on offense, we talked about how in the world he would possibly do both, right? It does seem like, I didn't think he was bad Sunday against Carolina, right? Carolina might have made it look a little bit better than he actually is, but I didn't think he was bad. I really didn't. It'd be interesting to see what he does.
Not a bad rookie debut. Not phenomenal, but again, he's going to grow into his role, and we'll see. We'll see if he remains 50-50 split. We'll see if, as his career moves along, if he doesn't edge or lean one way or the other. When we come back, Cole, let's get right back into our conversation from earlier in the show about Clemson and that cluster, what, that we saw Saturday night in Clemson as they struggled against a preseason terrible Troy. We'll talk to Grayson Mann about it next. Well, the Clemson Tigers got the win over the weekend. Looked horrible for the first half and needed a couple of sparks late to get it done against the Czechs Nose, picked to finish 6th in the Sun Belt West Troy Trojans over the weekend. To talk about it and try to make sense of what exactly is going on with this team, we bring in Grayson Mann of TigerNet.com. Grayson, now that we have 2 weeks of this offense looking awful, but the defense looking pretty good, where do you stand in the preseason level of hype that we had about this team versus how they're playing? Is this who they really are as a mediocre, bad football team, or are they just not playing to their potential?
I think it might be a mix of both. I think if we had a preseason hype ship that if we were crewmates on that ship, Diesel, I think we'd be taking on water right now and desperately trying to get it out. But it was a really interesting day on Saturday. I think the Clemson fans wanted that Troy matchup to be the ultimate palate cleanser, where you really were able to tell yourself after LSU that that's just a really good defense and perhaps one of the best in the country under Blake Baker at LSU. And you left that Troy game. Well, you had to leave twice since the lightning delay happened. And you think to yourself, is this who Clemson really is? It heard a lot of, is this 2023 all over again? And so there's a lot of hype being flushed down the drain, and I think fairly so. And I think it's a Clemson matchup against Georgia Tech that Tiger fans are probably already worried about. And I think that panic meter is pretty high heading into Atlanta at high noon on Saturday.
You know, it's interesting, Grayson. We talked about it last week, but this let's create a pie all of a sudden, right? If we have this offensive pie and it's broken up into several different categories of failure as to why this Clemson offense isn't good. You just said you think it might be a little bit of both in terms of the hype and the poor execution. When you look at the pie, though, and how it's broken up in your mind, seeing what you've seen now for 2 weeks in a row, what areas of the pie are the biggest and the smallest in terms of the lack of or poor execution on the part of this Clemson offense?
Well, I thought a nice chunk of the pie against LSU was protection up front, and I really felt like against Troy that wasn't the issue for the most part. I felt like throwing Elijah Thurman in there has been a big boost. I think he's probably one of Clemson's more athletic linemen, if not the most athletic, and should be on the field for the remainder of the season, depending on how they want to throw out combinations. But those other pieces of the pie were Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik, and after watching the Troy game twice, I think Klubnik deserves a lot of the blame for how this offense has performed. It's been very uneven, a lot of erratic throws, decision-making. I look at one play in particular that kind of summates all the gripes I think Clemson fans have with him. It's a throw early against Troy. TJ Moore does his job, cooks a defender on the boundary with a nice little slant on the inside, and you can see on the broadcast that Klubnik's staring him down, and that second or two of delay turns what's probably a first down and more for TJ into a hospital ball and a drop, and Clemson has to punt it. It's just not seeing the field the way you think that a third-year starter should at quarterback. And I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of, but the quarterback that diced up Texas's defense and the quarterback that we're seeing against Troy on Saturdays feels like two separate players.
Grayson Mann, TigerNet.com. Grayson, we all know that Tom Allen can coach an elite defense, but we saw, especially on that first touchdown drive for Troy, I think maybe some of the worst defensive fundamentals that I've seen a Clemson defense run in a long time. You know, you see Ronan Hannafin miss an open field tackle when the linebacker kind of rushed the quarterback and left him out there on an island, just whiffed on the tackle. I saw Jamal Anderson get blown past on that 44-yard touchdown pass there. What is Tom doing behind the scenes to discipline or bring this team back to basics to make sure that the everyday fundamental tackles and positioning don't get missed?
I think that was kind of his goal throughout the offseason was we got to bring this back to basics, especially when the fundamentals were Clemson's biggest issue in 2024, whether it was the tackling or some of the gap schemes and just the integrity on that front were sort of the Achilles heel of this defense in 2024. And you've seen that improve to an extent. I feel like the performance was a little better against LSU. I don't know if that's the letdown of an opponent, the way that Troy's offensive coordinator schemed things up. But you're right, that first touchdown was pretty easy with how they were able to dial up. And I think the Clemson defense will take its time. I think Allen will probably be a few more weeks before we really start to see that identity. He's thrown a lot out there, whether he's bringing Ashton Hampton in on a cornerback blitz and sort of trusting Ronan Hannafin to occupy that spot, or you're bringing in a different hodgepodge of plays to try to create pressure when they've really gotten the ball out quick. The last two offenses, LSU and Troy, have made an effort to negate Clemson's pass rush, which arguably should be their best strength on the field when it comes to that side of the ball. So I just think it's going to be an adjustment period for that. A lot of teams are going to throw the ball quickly and try to get things out there and try to figure out a way to negate that front seven. So Allen's got his hands full so far. Sweeney said it himself that he didn't really love the consistency from some of those big plays that Troy was able to have. Felt a little bit reminiscent of the issues in 2024. But overall, that's not the side of the ball that I'm sure fans are overly worried about compared to the other side of things.
Grayson, what was Dabo's biggest, I guess, takeaway post game in terms of even yesterday of what you guys heard from him? Because ultimately, when you take all of these things into consideration and throw them in the bag and shake the bag up and roll the dice back out, the buck does stop with Dabo. And whether it's defense or offense, at times the team just hadn't looked ready to go this season. So is there ownership, accountability there, or same old, same old? What in your mind, what do you think Dabo is saying and what do you think he should be saying?
From people that I have talked to, I think the most appreciative thing that most been appreciative of from Sweeney was saying that the fans deserve better from that product that's been put on the field. And a lot of Clemson fans have very much been like, I appreciate that, because it hasn't been the best product possible on the field through 2 games. So I think there's been an acknowledgement that this team has to start faster. You look at the first 4 quarters of the first 2 halves that Clemson's played, they've scored 1 touchdown. And that's an Adam Randall power through on 4th down. So they were close to having 0 on the total count here. So I think Clemson has acknowledged that, and Sweeney particularly has said, we got to start quicker. But they also acknowledge at the same time that second half against Troy was the shot in the arm that this team perhaps needed to maybe juice some things up. Now, is that going to be you finally started turning things up against inferior competition, so of course that's what the result should have been from the start? Or you respect Troy enough to think, okay, that's a pretty good Troy team over there that, again, was picked to finish almost dead last in the Sun Belt. So take that for what it's worth. I think it's just kind of how you evaluate Saturdays. You're thankful for the win, but also looking ahead and going, this team's got to play a lot better if they want to accomplish any of their goals that they have posted on the calendar.
Grayson, I know 112 yards on the ground is nothing to sneeze at. Adam Randall had himself a good day on the stat sheet, at least, when it comes to yards gained. But you and I both know he's not a true running back. He's a converted wide receiver, and he was non-existent against LSU. So if you want to do the averages game here, he's averaging about 50 yards per game. Do you think that there's anything going on behind the scenes to maybe speed along the development of Gideon Davidson, who is a true running back? I know he's a true freshman also, but in any way, shape, or form, to get a guy who specializes as a running back up to speed so that he can take the brunt of those carries? Or has it been the plan all along to have Adam Randall be RB1 for this team?
I think it's the latter there, Diesel. It's that they really like Adam Randall behind the scenes. Did a lot of great things in the offseason, and Sweeney said multiple times that this offense really just hasn't had the chance. They haven't given Randall the chances to produce. And when Randall had adequate protection up front, was able to make things happen in that second half in particular, felt like Randall made some nice plays. I still don't think he's the most shifty guy, and I think with every great running back, there's that second or two of patience that they have behind the line of scrimmage while blocks start to open up. That separates your Steelers' Le'Veon Bell from your backups in college football. There's just that minute patience that makes them so brilliant. And Randall's still learning the kinks of the game overall. And so that puts you at a disadvantage when you don't really trust the guys behind you, in this case with the running backs room to make it happen. So positive second half for Randall. Overall, I think Clemson fans might be clamoring for a little bit more of a diverse look back there. I think Eziamume can give you something. Gideon Davidson certainly can give you something. He had a nice carry that produced a first down on Saturday. So overall, I think Randall doesn't necessarily give you the juice at running back, but when he's given the opportunity to make plays, it's been a slight positive, I'd say.
Grayson, do you feel like we're teeter-tottering, like it's a seesaw right now heading into Saturday's game against Georgia Tech with One side of it being, the season could be salvaged with a really good performance, and the other side being, wow, if things go poorly, then all of a sudden this Clemson team's 1-2, and maybe the sky is falling.
It's an interesting spot because of where Clemson has kind of played itself into, where that the balance is really tilting in one direction or the other, where Clemson could have been 2-0, or Clemson probably could have put up a better offensive performance against LSU, and you aren't as worried about it being 1-1. So it just comes down to, I guess, who you ask. And while it's still really early in the season, and maybe we're talking next Monday if Clemson drops 35 on Georgia Tech, which I'd frankly be surprised at this point, given the evidence that's been rolled out in 2025. But yeah, there's an opportunity here. And we've said it on this show multiple times. I think Georgia Tech's a fantastic football team, a group that I've picked to be in Charlotte in December to play who I picked Clemson number 1 to play them based off of the offseason prediction store for right there. So this is an opportunity where I think this is a quality win on Saturday if Clemson gets it done. How they get done may predicate how you feel about the victory, but getting a win on the road in conference play keeps you afloat at the very least for another Saturday. And so, Cole, I think to your point, it is kind of feeling like teetering is the right word, where one way or the other, we're going to have a pretty wild result on Saturday afternoon.
Well, Grayson, you use the word teetering. Here's another one, slide. That's how you could describe Clemson when it comes to the AP Top 25, and that slide from 3 to 8 and then 8 to number 12. Do you think that's fair for them to be where they are?
I don't see a top 12 team out there. So I think the AP polls, if you give me just 1 second to talk, I know that there have been greater personalities out there than I that have ranted about the AP poll and just kind of what a hodgepodge of a mess it is. But there's some rankings in there that I don't understand, and Clemson's certainly one of them. I would have dropped them much lower in the AP top 25. I wouldn't have Alabama in the AP top 25, and I think I'd have Florida State much higher, but I think the AP poll rides too much on preseason expectations, so they're still thinking, that's a top 3 team we had there earlier. We can't drop them that far after 2 games. So frustrating, but at the end of the day, the AP poll becomes kind of, I hate to use the word useless when we get the CFP equation into it. But man, I think if you're an AP voter, what are we doing out here?
And Grayson, for what it's worth, the S&P Plus data has Clemson as the 31st best team in the country, and that's a
probably
huge
more fair.
slide.
Probably a little bit more fair given what we've seen.
What do you think they are? AP to the side, S&P to the side, GraysonManTigerNet.com. Clemson in your mind is where in the let's call it top 25.
I'd give them probably 19, 18 right now. I still think they're good in comparison to the rest of the country. But there are some teams like Oklahoma that I think deserve a higher spot than Clemson after beating Michigan on their home turf, taking care of business in front of the home crowd.
Yeah.
John Mateer looks excellent for that squad. So I obviously no one cares about my personal top 25.
That's not true. That's not true. We all do.
I know you do, Cole.
We all
do.
Cole. The upstate, the world cares.
The world is maybe stretching it, but
Grayson, how do you expect to see Cade Klubnik sort of adjust and get to work, put his nose back down, get to work in this coming week? I mean, he's a senior, he's a leader. It's his job to probably be harder on his teammates than even his coaches are. Is he that kind of guy as a leader behind the scenes?
I remember one moment his freshman year watching him at a practice, and he was barking at some people that were a lot older than him. So I've never really casted doubt on his want or will or the ability to stay late at night and meticulously dissect film. And maybe that's part of the problem with Klubnik, is it might be thinking about it too much in a sense, where he's worked meticulously hard. I mean, there was a story I was given to from him at the Elite 11 this summer where he spent 45 minutes on one minute throwing mechanic with Jordan Palmer. And that's just kind of the kid that he is just that hard, put his nose in the dirt, could stay out there for hours and not break a sweat because he truly loves what he does. And so it's never been that aspect for it. I think for Klubnik on Saturday, if we're going to be talking here next week about a Clemson win, I think it's going to be centered around how quickly Clemson can start. And watching some of these games, LSU and Troy in particular, there's open concepts, and Klubnik really just has to find them. There was one or two where he had Tyler Brown in step, and he had Ezzy Amume for a check down that resulted in a sack, whether he's holding the ball for too long or the release is too late. It's just not seeing the field well enough, and it's really puzzling for a quarterback that you turn on that Texas tape, particularly that second half, and Texas knows he's throwing it. The whole country knows that Clemson has to throw it, and he's dicing him up. So there's a good quarterback in there that he's just hiding.
Grayson, what concerns you most about what you've seen from Georgia Tech?
I think Georgia Tech's a team that just has that fundamental, it sort of the comparison popped in my mind during the NBA playoffs. They remind me of the Pacers, where they're not a team that talent-wise they're going to blow you away, and you may think on paper that, man, talent-wise there's no matchup here, but it's a group that's coached by Brent Key that fundamentally is one of the best in the country. And I know Haynes King, his body is made out of paper at this point, but if he's on the field, you've always got a chance with 10. And then Aaron Philo is a quarterback waiting in the wings that can get it done. So they got a lot of talent on the boundary. Eric Rivers is a guy that I really liked out of the transfer portal out of FIU. Yet to really splash for GT, but is a big playmaking threat. So offensively, the eye candy that they're going to be able to throw around with Faulkner, I think they're going to make it happen. And so this is a group that I think Clemson fans have rightfully been worried about as a game to watch for in the ACC this offseason. And that's only been magnified based on the product they've seen for the first 2 games.
Grayson, are we going to get another week of Chippy in your face, Dabo, saying it's our fault for buying into the narratives?
He might tell us to throw it in the mud again. We'll see tomorrow. He told us to write about how bad it was, and we got something on TigerNet coming out. We've been living up to the word. So we've heeded his request.
You're being obedient, Grayson. You're being obedient. He'd be proud of you. Appreciate you as always, man.
I hope to actually win an underdog pick this week.
Yeah,
it's been a rough start. Rough start. I got to not pick a North Carolina-based team.
That's the problem. Always the best. Grayson Man, TigerNet.com. Well, it's been an incredible opening weekend of NFL, and Diesel, I have one major worry, one major concern, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Minnesota-Chicago tonight will be a marquee matchup, but after the incredible games we've seen this weekend, starting back with Dallas and Philadelphia on Thursday and ending last night with Buffalo and Baltimore, did we schedule wrong? Should that have been the Monday night game? Is there any way possible that the Bears and Vikings tonight will be maybe possibly a good game?
Well, obviously the NFL scheduling office knew that the Vikings were going to trade back to get Adam Thielen.
That's
and so
right.
they're like, we got a playmaker on the field on both sides of the ball. We got a playmaker with the Vikings. We got Caleb Williams with the Bears. I mean, if you're a Carolina Panther fan, that's the last thing you want to see is Adam Thielen going off for 100 yards and a touchdown or two tonight, because that would just be the extra knife in the heart.
The over-under right now on most sports books is 3.5 for receptions tonight for Adam Thielen. Would you take the over or under on that? More or less?
I'd probably take the under. I'd probably, just because it's his first game back and maybe getting that quarterback receiver connection. I think he'll have a couple of catches. He might break one for a solid gain, but I wouldn't say he's going to have a monster night. But again, I just hope that he doesn't have a monster night.
No, I'm with you.
Now that he's gone, same way you feel about Micah Parsons. Now that Adam Thielen's gone, he's dead to me. I hope he gets turf toe in week number 1.
Turf toe's no joke, man. That's hey, I will say,
even though it sounds funny, it doesn't feel funny.
Caleb Williams tonight. I'm interested, Diesel, just to see what Caleb Williams looks like under Ben Johnson. I mean, I'm intrigued. Caleb Johnson doesn't intrigue me a ton by himself in Chicago. But now with Ben Johnson, man, like, sign me up. Is it? I don't know. I really don't know what to expect tonight, and that's why I'm kind of intrigued by it. It's a 1.5-point game tonight, by the way, or a spread in favor of Chicago. So it's Chicago minus 1.5.
Yeah, look, I was really tough on Caleb Williams coming out of college at Southern Cal. I'm just going to go home and cuddle with my dog and watch Netflix and paint my fingernails pink. And he was awful last year, so I got my little vindication. I feel like I've gotten my pound of flesh out of Caleb Williams. I don't want to see the guy suck in the NFL. I want as many players to go on and be successful and make life-changing money as they possibly can. So I hope Caleb, under a new regime, can square it away and go be great.
Well, look, the Lions yesterday didn't look good without Ben Johnson. Maybe the Bears tonight will look good with Ben Johnson. Hey, we'll see what J.J. McCarthy looks like tonight for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know. Maybe a sneaky good matchup. You also have the Manning cast tonight. If you're interested in that, maybe a sneaky good matchup on Monday Night Football. We shall see, right?
Looking forward to it. Monday Night Football, and Tolos will be back tomorrow to do it all over again.